I was meant to grow stronger through the mockery of others, yet I had the misfortune of transmigrating as the Qingyun patriarch, a man whom no one dares to provoke. My reputation was so brutal and tyrannical that I never heard a single word of hostility directed toward me. This was despite the fact that my true cultivation remained only at the qi refining stage. Yet with a single cough, the great powerhouses of the righteous path would tremble in abject terror. As one of the few transmigrators without a system, I knew all too well that this facade of strength was entirely unreliable. In order to finally be insulted so I could grow powerful, I took a desperate gamble, declaring that I had suffered a cultivation deviation, and sealed myself within the demon suppression tower in the rear mountains for 500 years. When word spread that a great demon like myself had entered a death seclusion, the suppressed righteous sects finally began to stir, just as I had predicted. 100 years later, the outer strongholds of the demonic sect were utterly wiped out. 300 years later, the four great guardians fell in battle one after another. 500 years later, the demonic sect's headquarters faced its final hour of destruction at the hands of the Righteous Alliance. A beautiful saintess approached the exterior of the demon suppression tower and kowtowed heavily. She pleaded for me, the sect leader, to emerge from my seclusion, to deal with those righteous hypocrites who were spewing arrogant nonsense outside. I slowly pushed open the stone doors that had remained silent for 5 centuries. As dust danced wildly in the dim sunlight, I sensed the refining spiritual energy within me, so faint it was practically negligible. I let out a deep sigh. For 500 years, I had constantly yearned for someone to come and insult me, but the puppets guarding the tower did nothing but kowtow in my presence. Now the opportunity had finally arrived. I looked at the saintess before me, Su Qingyu, her exquisite face drenched in tears. It seemed the people outside were fighting with great ferocity. I was quite satisfied because the more intensely they fought, the deeper their hatred for this sect leader must be. As long as they dared to open their mouths to humiliate me, I could instantly reach the maximum level. I placed my hands behind my back, intentionally maintaining an air of profound mystery. You do not fear. This seat shall emerge now to seek justice for you. Upon hearing my voice, Su Qingyu's slender frame trembled slightly. She looked up, her eyes filled with fanatical adoration. Sect leader, you have finally awakened. Your aura, it has truly reached the state of returning to simplicity. I was speechless. I clearly have no cultivation base, so why do they claim I have returned to my true nature? Yet this is the pinnacle of playing the pig to eat the tiger. With an unhurried pace, I followed Su Qingyu toward the main hall of the headquarters. Outside the hall, the sounds of slaughter shook the heavens, as thousands of self-proclaimed righteous path cultivators laid siege to the area, sealing it so tightly that not even a drop of water could escape. Leading them was a middle-aged man standing atop a flying sword. His name was Yunzhonghe, the pavilion master of the cloud-flying pavilion. 500 years ago, a single palm strike from me had shattered half of his body, but now he stood high-spirited, pointing his longsword directly at the demonic sect's gates. Qingyun, you old thief, you have hidden like a cowardly turtle for 500 years. Come out now and accept your death. Hearing this roar, I was inwardly overjoyed. These insults, which I hadn't heard in such a long time, sounded sweeter than celestial music, yet outwardly my expression darkened. I stepped out of the great hall, one pace at a time. With every step, I intentionally crushed the stone tiles beneath my feet, creating the illusion of power spiraling out of control. At the sight of my appearance, the cacophonous battlefield instantly fell into an eerie silence. The arrogance on Yunzhong's face vanished, turning deathly pale the moment he saw me. The hand gripping his sword trembled uncontrollably, and even the flying sword beneath his feet began to waver. I narrowed my eyes and spoke coldly. Yunzhong, we haven't met in 500 years. It seems your courage has grown quite a bit. Just now, who did you call a cowardly turtle? Yunzhong swallowed hard and instinctively retreated over a dozen meters. The surrounding righteous cultivators were also drained of color, their faces filled with dread. The legendary old demon Qingyun, who slaughtered without mercy, was not dead, and by the looks of it, he seemed even more terrifying than before. Yunzhong forced himself to summon his courage and shouted with a trembling voice, "Everyone, do not be deceived by him. This old thief has been in seclusion for centuries. If he had truly achieved a breakthrough, he would have swept across the world long ago. He is surely putting up a front. Perhaps his lamp has already run out of oil." Inwardly, I offered him a word of praise. That's it, come and test me, come and insult me. I, Guxing, feigned an unstable aura and allowed my body to sway violently for a moment. He even pulled a silk handkerchief from his robes, gently wiping away a non-existent trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. Su Qingyu's expression paled in horror at the sight. Cult leader, what is wrong? Have you still not recovered from the injuries of your qi deviation? Seeing this, Yunzhong's eyes lit up and he threw his head back in a thunderous laugh. I knew this old thief was finished. Look, everyone, he can barely even remain standing. What old demon Qingyun? He is nothing more than a useless wretch with one foot in the grave. Brothers, who among you will claim this old thief's head? Spurred on by Yunzhong's instigation, the crowd of righteous cultivators began to stir once more. A large man named Zhang Hu stepped forward brandishing a pair of axes. He looked at me and spat in contempt. Bah, I thought he was some heaven-defying figure, but he's just a sickly invalid, weaker than even those in the qi refining stage. Old thief, accept your death. He swung his dual axes, summoning a violent gale as he struck directly at me. I stood my ground, motionless, even closing my eyes as I screamed inwardly, Strike me, hurry, insult me even more harshly. At the very moment the axes were about to cleave my skull, a mechanical voice suddenly echoed in my mind. Detected host being insulted by a low-level cultivator. Cultivation base immediately increased to the peak of foundation establishment. 1-star intensity level reached. Activating the hundredfold enhancement effect, cultivation base immediately increased to the peak of foundation establishment. Activating the hundredfold enhancement effect, cultivation base immediately increased to the peak of foundation establishment. I snapped my eyes open, a violent surge of spiritual energy erupting from within my body. Before Jong-Hu could comprehend what was happening, he was blasted away by this overwhelming spiritual force. His axes shattered into 1,000 shards of scrap metal in mid-air, and his body crashed to the ground like a tattered ragdoll, his life extinguished instantly. Once again, Yunjong's smile froze on his face as he stared at me in utter disbelief. The foundation establishment stage? No, that's impossible. How can this be? Just a moment ago, he clearly possessed not a single shred of cultivation. I let out a deliberate sigh. This seat never intended to begin a massacre, but you have truly pushed me too far. Yunjong glared at me, his teeth gnashed in fury. Old thief, so you were indeed hiding your true power. However, he was not so easily intimidated into retreating. On the contrary, he became even more convinced that I was severely wounded, believing that I could only exert the strength of the foundation establishment stage. He signaled with his eyes to the black-clad men standing behind him. These were the assassins he had hired, specialists specifically trained to deal with wounded powerhouses such as myself. Several assassins vanished on the spot like fleeting phantoms. A moment later, countless poison needles rained down upon me like a torrential storm. I neither dodged nor avoided them. Instead, I stepped forward to welcome the needles head-on. As the poison needles pierced my body, a slight sting was followed immediately by a surge of even greater power. System notification ringing incessantly within my mind. Host detected under surprise attack by hidden weapons. Method, humiliation intensity high. 3 stars, cultivation phase advanced to the golden core stage. I felt a brilliant golden core instantly condense within my dantian, which then shattered to give birth to a nascent soul. The sensation of mastering the laws of the world almost made me want to hum in delight. I raised my hand and gave a gentle wave. The sky full of poison needles instantly transformed into soft flower petals, drifting silently to the ground. In that moment, Yunjong's resolve completely shattered, and he fell to his knees with a heavy thud. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. A nascent soul powerhouse? You could restore your nascent soul cultivation in an instant? I did not even spare him a glance. I turned my head towards Su Qingyu, whom I had just saved. She stood there, completely dazed by the sight. Within her eyes, beyond mere reverence, there was now a flicker of fervent admiration. The sect leader's divine might is unrivaled in this world. I shook my head, feeling a hint of annoyance in my heart. Why does everyone stop attacking once I reach the nascent soul stage? At this rate, when will I ever return to my peak? To continue baiting them, I deliberately coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood, my face instantly turning as pale as a sheet of paper. Qingyue, support me. This seat can no longer hold on. My peak level acting has once again successfully deceived everyone. Seeing this, Yunjong was overjoyed. It was nothing more than a final radiance before the end. Kill him. Everything in this demonic sect will be ours. However, just as he was about to personally strike, a streak of crimson light suddenly flashed across the horizon, and a woman clad in a fiery red dress descended, treading upon the void. Her aura was profound. With every step she took, the very void trembled. This woman was named Qilian Xianzi, a law enforcement elder of the Righteous Alliance. Her cultivation had already reached the early stage of the soul transformation realm. She cast a cold glance at Yunjonghe. Does it truly take this long to deal with a dying, heavily injured man? She then looked toward me, her eyes filled with mockery. Old man Qing Yun, back then you killed my Dao companion and slaughtered my entire sect. Did you ever think this day would come? To me, your current self is nothing more than a foul louse that can be crushed at any moment. I was secretly elated. The humiliation from a soul transformation expert. This would surely allow me to break through my bottleneck. I pointed a trembling finger at her. You enchantress, how dare you be so insolent? Qilian Xianzi let out a cold sneer. Insolent, I intend to skin you alive and pull out your tendons as a sacrifice to my late husband. With a violent wave of her sleeve, a fire whip 100 zhong long manifested in the void, lashing toward me with an aura that could destroy heaven and earth. I offered no defense. I even intentionally spread my arms wide to welcome this final blow. The long whip struck my chest with immense force, sending me flying backward and collapsing 3 palaces before I finally came to a halt. Su Qingyu cried out my name in anguish, desperate to rush forward and save me. Lying face down in the ruins, I felt a searing pain radiating from my chest, yet internally I was exhilarated to the extreme. System. Host has been subjected to ultimate humiliation by a soul transformation expert. 5-star humiliation intensity detected, activating hundredfold empowerment. Cultivation advancing to the peak of the soul transformation realm. Cultivation advancing to the body integration realm. I felt the nascent soul within my body instantly fuse with my physical form. A terrifying pressure belonging to a body integration expert immediately swept across the entire demonic sect headquarters. The righteous cultivators who were shouting just moments ago suddenly lost all strength, collapsing to their knees under this immense pressure. The weakest among them even exploded on the spot, reduced to mist and bone. I slowly rose from the debris. Though my clothes were tattered, my aura was as unfathomable as a bottomless abyss. Qilian Xianzi's expression finally shifted. She tried to retreat in terror, but this corner of heaven and earth had already been completely sealed by my divine sense. Just what kind of monster are you? Why is it that the more severe my injuries become, the higher my cultivation level rises? I cast a cold, indifferent glance at her and extended a single finger, gently tapping against the void itself. You just claimed you would skin my Qi Lian. The fairy let out a blood-curdling scream as her entire body was suspended in midair by an invisible force. No matter how much she struggled, it was in vain. I did not kill her, for I still needed her to continue drawing enmity toward me. With a casual wave of my hand, I sealed her cultivation and handed her over to Su Qingyu, ordering her to be kept under strict surveillance. I want her to witness with her own eyes exactly how her so-called righteous path is ultimately annihilated. Having settled all of this, I gazed toward the distant horizon. I knew full well that today's events were merely the beginning. The true old monsters have yet to show themselves. To lure more masters to come and revile me, I decided to raise the stakes significantly. I solemnly declared that the Qingyun demonic sect was reopening its gates this very day, and that any who dared to challenge this seat, should they emerge victorious, would obtain the map to my life's greatest treasures. Once these words were spoken, the entire world was shaken, and countless old monsters living in secluded mountain forests could no longer remain still. As for me, I returned to the peak of the demon suppression tower, continuing my charade of being afflicted by incurable, grievous wounds. Seated upon the nine-dragon throne atop the tower, I took a bite of a sour spirit fruit with one hand, while with the other I held my own wrist, a wrist that seemed to possess not even a shred of spiritual energy, and let out a long, weary sigh. These days are truly unbearable. As a transmigrator, I possess no system, nor do I have a golden finger. The only thing I can rely on is this bizarre constitution that increases my strength 100-fold whenever I am ridiculed. A passive constitution, the hundredfold mockery empowerment. Whenever I'm insulted, my power instantly surges 100 times over. I transmigrated into the body of the Qingyun ancestor, a figure whose name once shook the 8 directions. Now, every time I am mocked, my cultivation base instantly multiplies 100-fold. Both the righteous and demonic paths are so terrified of my name they barely dare to breathe in my presence. For me, finding someone willing to curse me is harder than ascending to the heavens. Just as my thoughts were wandering, the sound of light footsteps echoed from outside the tower. Su Qingyu entered with utmost care, carrying a bowl of steaming medicinal elixir. She looked upon my face, which was slightly. Her eyes grew red with heartache, and she collapsed to her knees, her voice trembling with tears. Sect leader, are you once again using these bitter soul-devouring fruits to temper your physical body? Thangwet is incompetent. I failed to find the 9-leaf heavenly lotus for you, causing you such suffering. Looking at the saintess before me and her overactive imagination, I couldn't stop my lip from twitching. I simply wanted to eat some fruit. Besides, these aren't soul-devouring fruits at all. They are just ordinary wild hawthorns. But what could I say? I could only wipe the sour juice from the corner of my mouth and let out a profound sigh. It matters not. What is this minor suffering compared to the great cause of restoring our demonic sect? Hearing this, the fervor and adoration in Su Qingyu's eyes nearly overflowed. She offered the medicinal bowl with both hands, saying respectfully, Sect leader, this is the 9-revolution heart-cleansing decoction brewed by your subordinate using spiritual spring water. Though it cannot fully heal your injuries, it will at least help suppress them. I looked at the medicinal liquid as black as ink, emitting a strange odor, my heart filled with intense reluctance, but to maintain my image of being profound and unpredictable, I had no choice but to drain it in one gulp. It was incredibly bitter, so bitter that I nearly shed tears. Meanwhile, Su Qingyu silently wiped away her tears by my side. In her eyes, I, the patriarch who willingly endured endless suffering for the sake of the sect, was truly the greatest leader in the world. That Qilian fairy, how is she now? I set the bowl down, asking with feigned indifference. Su Qingyu's expression turned solemn as she hurriedly replied, reporting to the sect leader that enchantress is currently imprisoned in the underground secret chamber. Her cultivation has been completely sealed by your restrictions, yet she remains stubborn, constantly hurling insults at our sect, and has even dared to speak insolently toward you, sect leader. Hearing this, my eyes suddenly lit up. I nearly leaped from the 9-dragon throne. Excellent. Truly, the heavens are helping me. Isn't this exactly the opportunity to hear some genuine insults? After all, the Qilian fairy is a powerhouse of the soul transformation stage. Her insults will surely allow my integration stage cultivation to take a significant step forward. Suppressing the wild joy in my heart, I deliberately let out a cold snort. An enchantress who overestimates herself. Prepare the palanquin. This seat shall personally conduct the interrogation. Su Qingyu hurriedly led the way ahead, her face etched with anxiety in her eyes. The sect leader intended to personally employ the demonic cult's secret arts to torture the defiant prisoner. A moment later, we arrived at a dark and damp underground secret chamber. The Qilian fairy was currently bound to the wall by 4 thick chains of profound iron. Her fiery red robes were somewhat tattered and torn, revealing large patches of her snow-white skin. Yet her delicate face was filled with stubbornness and hatred. Seeing me enter, she gnashed her teeth and spat at me. Old thief Qingyun, do you finally dare to face me? If you have the ability, then kill me. What kind of hero uses such despicable means to seal my cultivation? I looked at the spit on the ground. Far from being angry, I felt a wave of refreshment wash over my entire body. What a magnificent opening that was. However, my face remained a mask of coldness and indifference. I slowly walked toward her, looking down at her from above. That would be far too easy for you. This seat wants you to witness with your own eyes how the righteous path you hold so dear will tremble beneath my feet. Upon hearing my words, the Chilean fairy trembled with such rage that she gritted her teeth and glared at me with fury, hurling a barrage of insults. You despicable, shameless old demon! You are already with one foot in the grave, merely relying on a final flicker of life to prolong your wretched existence. Do you truly think you can deceive the world? Your current body is nothing more than a hollow shell, you disgusting, hypocritical, and cowardly old immortal. Accompanying every insult from the Chilean fairy, a voice echoed within my mind notifying me that the host was being verbally insulted by a deity transformation stage cultivator. Detected: host is being subjected to extreme verbal insults from a deity transformation stage cultivator. Insult intensity 4.5 stars, activating 100x empowerment effect. Cultivation advancing to the mid-stage of the body integration realm. Cultivation advancing to the late stage of the body integration realm. Heavens, that violent yet pure surge of spiritual energy instantly cleansed my 4 limbs and 100 meridians. It felt so exquisite that I nearly cried out aloud. Savoring this sensation, I closed my eyes, my face revealing a look of absolute enjoyment, even bordering on intoxication. This scene, in the eyes of the Chilean fairy and Su Qingyo, took on a completely different meaning. Looking at my nearly twisted smile, the Chilean fairy suddenly felt a cold shiver run down her spine. What is wrong with this old demon? I am clearly reviling him. Why does he wear such a joyful expression? Could it be that he possesses some peculiar inclination? Or is he using this method to demonstrate his unshakable state of mind to me? At that thought, a faint sense of dread suddenly bloomed within Fairy Chi-Lian's heart. Beside her, Su Qingyu was filled with profound shock and reverence. She cried out inwardly, he truly is worthy of the title of sect leader. Faced with such a venomous curse, not only did his Tao heart remain unswayed, but he even maintained a transcendent posture as if looking down upon all creation with mercy. This is the mark of a true supreme sovereign of the demonic path. To repay malice with virtue, no, he is using his supreme mental state to dissolve the enemy's will to fight. The sect leader's smile is more agonizing to the soul than any physical torture. Continue. I opened my eyes and looked at Fairy Chi-Lian with a gaze full of encouragement and anticipation. Fairy Chi-Lian was stunned. She stared at me blankly, momentarily forgetting to continue her barrage of insults. I frowned slightly, urging her on with a hint of displeasure. This seat told you to continue. Why have you stopped? To think that a law enforcement elder of the Righteous Alliance possesses such a limited vocabulary. You called me a cowardly hypocrite just now. Was there nothing else? Speak. This seat is listening. Fairy Chi-Lian was utterly bewildered. She had traveled the cultivation world for hundreds of years and had witnessed countless storms and tribulations, but a request to be insulted like this. It was the first time she had ever encountered such a person. This old demon was undoubtedly trying to humiliate her. He was using this method to mock her incompetence and weakness. You are a madman. Fairy Chi-Lian grit her teeth and managed to force out another sentence. Host has been subjected to a low-level verbal insult. Insult intensity, 1 star, activating 100's multiplier effect. Spiritual, although the increase this time wasn't much, only 500 years, it is still better than nothing. I let out a sigh and shook my head in slight disappointment. It was far too weak, akin to nothing more than scratching an itch for this venerable one. Qingya, from now on, bring her spiritual medicine and fine delicacies every day. There must be absolutely no delay. This venerable one wants her to remain in good health, ready to be interrogated at any moment. Su Qingyue hastily accepted the command. The admiration she felt for me had reached an insurmountable peak. The sect leader is truly too benevolent, his foresight reaching far beyond comprehension. Using exquisite food to soften the enemy's will, while employing such a peculiar psychological assault to shatter their Tao heart. A masterstroke, truly a masterstroke. Meanwhile, Fairy Chi-Lian gazed at me with a look of extreme wariness. Old villain, what exactly are you plotting? If you wish to kill me, then kill this Chi-Lian. I will never accept your charity. I turned around, leaving her with an unfathomable and mysterious view of my back. To eat or not, that is not for you to decide. This venerable one shall return another day to hear your repentance. Returning to the peak of the demon-suppressing tower, I immediately sat cross-legged to consolidate my newly ascended cultivation at the late stage of the integration realm. Though the sensation of gaining power is exhilarating, I am well aware that while the integration realm is considered a regional overlord in this world, it is still far from being truly invincible. Among the immortal seniors who have been in secluded cultivation for tens of thousands of years within the Righteous Tao Alliance, who among them isn't an old monster of the Mahayana or even the Tribulation Transcendence realm? Furthermore, the news I spread that challenging this venerable one would yield a treasure map has been circulating for several days now. Why has there been no movement until now? Could the righteous cultivators truly be so cowardly? Just as I was becoming somewhat impatient, Su Qingyue hurried in, a strange expression upon her face, tinged with both anger and a sense of the ridiculous. Reporting to the sect leader, there is a youth outside who calls himself the Light of the Righteous Tao. I opened my eyes, feeling an immediate surge of excitement. Has he come to challenge this venerable one? Su Qingyue nodded. Yes, this man's name is Chu Yang, a sword cultivator who has recently been making a great name for himself in the martial world. It is said he is only 25 years old, yet has already reached the mid-stage of the nascent soul realm. He is hailed as a once-in-a-millennium genius of the Qiankun sword sect. He is currently issuing a challenge outside the mountain gate, and his words are exceedingly arrogant. I stood up abruptly and slapped my thigh. Arrogance is good. This venerable one happens to like such insolent youths. Lead this venerable one to meet him. Su Qingyue looked at me with a trace of concern. Sect leader, your injuries. I waved my hand, a mysterious smile playing on my lips. He is merely a nascent soul stage brat. I can handle him myself. Remember, no matter what he says later, none of you are to interfere. Anyone who violates this order will be punished according to the sect's laws. Though Tu Qingyu did not understand, seeing my determined gaze, she could only bow and obey. Meanwhile, outside the mountain gates of the Qingyun demon sect, a massive crowd of cultivators had gathered to witness the spectacle. Standing at the very front of the crowd was a young man in white robes, a long sword strapped to his back, exuding an air of arrogance. He possessed sword-like brows and piercing eyes, his face brimming with absolute confidence, bordering on sheer conceit. This was Chu Yang, the pride of the Qiankun sword sect. Chu Yang gazed at the sect gates before him. Though somewhat weathered, they still radiated an ancient majesty. A flash of disdain flickered in his eyes. In his view, what was this so-called old demon Qingyun? Nothing more than an outdated old man. Today, he would trample over the bones of this old demon to achieve supreme glory and make his name known throughout the world. Old thief Qingyun, come out and meet your death. Chu Yang's long sword left its scabbard. In a sharp burst of sword, she soared straight into the 9 heavens, shattering the dark clouds on the horizon. You have allowed your disciples to wreak havoc upon the world. Your crimes are heavens deep. Today, I, Chu Yang, shall act on behalf of heaven, using your head as an offering to the fallen spirits of my righteous comrades. Seeing this, the surrounding onlookers erupted in a chorus of praise and admiration. As expected of young hero Chu, truly a hero emerges from the youth. With sword chi of this caliber, he is likely already a match for the soul transformation experts of the previous generation. That old demon Qingyun has been in seclusion for a century. He is surely on his last breath. Today he will likely perish here. Hearing the surrounding chatter, the smugness on Chu Yang's face intensified. At that moment, the great gates of the mountain slowly creaked open. Surrounded by a few demonic disciples, I stepped out leisurely, intentionally concealing my entire aura. Revealing nothing, I appeared as nothing more than a frail ordinary old man, vulnerable to the slightest breeze. I even feigned a couple of dry coughs. My body swayed slightly, as if I might collapse at any moment if the wind blew too hard. When Chu Yang saw my appearance, he was initially stunned, then burst into boisterous laughter. Haha, I thought you were some formidable figure, but it turns out you were just a useless old man with one foot in the grave. Old thief Qingyun, look at yourself, you can barely even stand, yet you still dare to call yourself the sovereign of the demonic path? In my opinion, you should kneel and kowtow 3 times to this young master, then hand over the treasure map. Perhaps this young master will leave your corpse intact. Otherwise, when this young master's sword descends, I fear your old bones will be ground into mere dust. Heavens, how sweet. Every word that reaches my ears feels like drops of the finest celestial dew. Detected host is being subjected to extreme contempt and humiliation by a nascent soul stage cultivator. Humiliation level 3.5 stars. Detected is being subjected to extreme contempt and humiliation by a nascent soul stage cultivator. Humiliation level 5 stars. Cultivation base increased to the peak of the integration stage. Cultivation base increased to half-step tribulation transcendence. Boom. I can feel the power within my body expanding frantically. The bottleneck that had hindered me for so long is finally showing signs of cracking. I take a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the urge to undergo tribulation on the spot. My gaze toward Chu Yang is as if I am looking at a priceless treasure. Young hero Chu, do not speak so hastily. I smile faintly, my tone incredibly gentle. Although this seat is of advanced age, I still possess the confidence to deal with a junior such as yourself. Seeing that I am not angry but instead smiling at him, Chu Shang immediately feels a deep sense of shame, perceiving this as a monumental insult. In his eyes, my actions are nothing more than blatant disregard and naked contempt. Old villain, even with death at your doorstep, you still dare to put on airs. Die. Chu Yang lets out a furious roar, his entire body transforming into a blinding beam of sword light. With peerless sharpness, he lunges straight for my throat. The power of this strike is truly extraordinary. The surrounding void is torn into small black fissures. However, to my eyes, having reached half-step tribulation transcendence, the speed of this strike is as slow as a crawling snail. I can even see the flow of every strand of spiritual energy on the sword's tip. Yet, I do not dodge, nor do I even bother to activate a protective shield. I simply stand there, motionless. Spreading my arms wide, I await the arrival of the blade. Come, strike me. If only this single blow wounds me, followed by a few more insults, I will be able to break through directly to the tribulation transcendent stage. Cult leader. Behind me, Tu Qingyu's face turns deathly pale as she screams in terror. The onlookers also widen their eyes, certain that this time I am doomed. Yet, just as the sword tip is a mere 3 inches from my chest, a sudden horrified shout erupts from the crowd behind Chu Yang. Stop at once. Immediately after, a green-clad figure flashes. He unleashed a powerful palm strike, slamming it against the hilt of Chu Duang's blade, forcibly diverting the trajectory of the sword intent. Boom! Chu Duang's strike plunged into the ground beside him. blasting the earth into a massive crater dozens of zhang wide. The impact sent the man staggering back over a dozen steps, his face etched with utter confusion and fury. He turned toward the one who had suddenly intervened and roared, "Great Elder, why did you stop me? I was on the verge of slaying this old devil." The one who had stepped in was a white-haired elder clad in azure Taoist robes. This was the great elder of the Qiankun sword sect, Taoist Qingsong, a cultivator at the early stage of the tribulation transcending realm. At this moment, Taoist Qingsong was drenched in sweat, his face deathly pale. Completely ignoring Chu Duang's complaints, he rushed forward and collapsed to his knees before me with a heavy thud. Under the stunned gazes of the crowd, he kowtowed 3 times with immense force. "Senior Qing Yun, please appease your anger. This fool has offended you. I beg you to show mercy for the sake of our sect's founding ancestor and spare his miserable life." A deathly silence fell over the area as everyone stood frozen in shock. Chu Duang was so horrified that the longsword slipped from his hand and clattered to the ground. "Great Elder, why are you kneeling to him? He is nothing more than a dying man." "Silence, you insolent fool." Taoist Qingsong suddenly spun around and delivered a vicious slap to Chu Duang's face, sending him flying. "You rebellious wretch, do you wish to bring ruin upon our entire sect?" I stood to the side watching this scene, my heart bleeding with frustration. "Great Elder, oh Great Elder, you meddling old fool. I was clearly about to be struck so I could grow stronger. Why did you have to interfere out of nowhere? And you even slapped away my living battery with a single strike." My expression darkened as I looked coldly at Taoist Qingsong. "Qingsong, what is the meaning of this?" I gazed coldly at Taoist Qingsong. "Qingsong, what exactly are you doing?" This seat was in the middle of a spar with young hero Chu. "Why have you come here to disrupt us?" Upon hearing my words, Taoist Qingsong's body began to tremble even more violently. He looked up, his eyes filled with terror and reverence, as if he had realized the ultimate truth. "Senior, please, stop feigning. My ignorant disciple failed to see through your profound methods, but this junior saw everything clearly from the sidelines. Just now, the senior faced my disciple's blade with a completely natural expression, neither dodging nor retreating. This is clearly not some incurable fatal wound, but rather proof that the senior has tempered his physical body and mental state to a level where no worldly laws can touch him. Indestructible through 10,000 tribulations, he has reached a truly supreme realm. The reason the senior did not strike back was out of his boundless compassion, granting that rebellious disciple a final chance at redemption. Had that traitor actually struck the senior, the resulting backlash would have surely shattered his soul in an instant. The senior's divine power is peerless. This junior is filled with utmost admiration." Hearing Taoist Qingsong's seamless and logical over-analysis of the situation, I nearly coughed up a mouthful of blood. "Supreme compassion," he says. "I simply wanted to be beaten. I was trying to cultivate through self-destruction. How could you possibly overthink things to such an absurd degree?" What drove me even further into despair was that after hearing Taoist Qingsong's explanation, the surrounding cultivators all wore expressions of sudden realization. So that's how it is. No wonder old demon Qingyun remained so unperturbed. Heavens, to have attained the indestructible realm is a threshold that only those in the late stages of the tribulation crossing realm, or perhaps even the Mahayana realm, can hope to touch. The great elder of the Qiankun sword sect is a powerhouse of the tribulation crossing realm himself. If he says it is so, it must be true. To think Patriarch Qingyun is this terrifying. After 500 years of secluded cultivation, he has actually reached such heights. That Chu Yang is truly ignorant and reckless. After 500 years of secluded cultivation, he has actually reached such heights. That Chu Yang was truly reckless. He nearly delivered both himself and his entire sect to their graves today. Hearing the waves of praise and awe around me, I wanted to cry, but no tears would come. It's over. Thanks to Qingsong, my status as a peerless powerhouse has been confirmed once again. Who would ever dare to provoke me now? Who would even dare to breathe a word against me? It seems the rumors were not exaggerated. Chu Yang, who had previously worn an indignant expression, now collapsed upon hearing the great elder's words and the whispers of the crowd. His entire body went limp as he slumped to the floor. His face was as pale as paper, and the contempt in his eyes had been replaced by absolute paralyzing terror. Did I truly just challenge a Mahayana realm existence? I must have lost my mind. He collapsed to his knees with a heavy thud, frantically kowtowing toward me. "Senior, please spare my life." This junior would never dare again. System notification. Abnormal verbal impact on the host detected. The target's Tao heart has collapsed. He is undergoing a state of extreme reverence and introspection toward you, unable to activate the strengthening effect. Hearing the notification in my mind, I let out a weary sigh, my heart filled with a sense of desolation. Such a tragedy. Why is it so difficult for me to grow stronger? Looking at the master and disciple before me, kowtowing frantically as if their lives depended on it, I gave a cold snort. "Begone, go back and tell the sect leader of the Qiankun sword sect to keep a tighter leash on the Bai family's dog. Should there be a next time, this venerable one shall personally pay a visit to your main peak." Taoist Qingsong felt as if he had been granted a divine pardon. He grabbed Chu Yang by the collar and transformed into a streak of light. In the blink of an eye, they had vanished beyond the horizon, as if fearing that I might change my mind if they were a second too slow. The turmoil outside the mountain gate finally subsided. However, the reputation of old ancestor King Yun, of eternal immortality and returning to true simplicity, began to spread at a staggering speed. Throughout the cultivation world, not only did the restless righteous sects fall into line, but even the disciples within the demonic cult became exceptionally zealous in their duties. In their eyes, their cult leader had become a figure akin to a god. As long as the cult leader remained, the demonic cult would never face destruction. Sitting atop the demon-suppressing tower, I watched the disciples below rebuilding the headquarters with burning fervor. I let out a melancholy sigh. This will not do. Things cannot continue like this. If they no longer dare to attack or insult me, I will be stuck at this half-step tribulation transcendent stage for the rest of my life. Although I am considered a peerless master in the mortal realm, should the gates of the immortal realm open one day, or an ancient beast awaken, this meager cultivation of mine would be utterly insignificant. Since the righteous sects refuse to provoke me, I must find a way to provoke them, to force them into cursing me. With that thought, I summoned Su Qingyue. Qingyu, what is the current number of disciples in our cult? Tu Qingyu fidgeted with the hem of her sleeve in slight embarrassment, answering in a low voice. Reporting to the sect leader, after these 500 years of suppression, our sect's core disciples number fewer than 1,000. As for our assets, aside from this main peak and a few abandoned mines, there are virtually no spirit stones remaining. To be honest, sect leader, in recent days we have been unable to even distribute low-grade spirit stones for the disciples' cultivation. Having said this, the demonic sect's saintess, usually so cold and aloof, lowered her head in shame. Upon hearing this, my eyes instead brightened with interest. Poverty, as the proverb says, desperation breeds change. Furthermore, this is the perfect excuse for me to rightfully provoke the righteous path. Qingyu, relay my decree. I stood up and swept my sleeve with authority. From this day forward, the Qingyun demonic sect will undergo a complete structural transformation. We must strive to develop our productive forces. Engage in industrialized commerce. Tu Qingyu was stunned. Engage in industrialized commerce. Tu Qingyu was stunned. She stared at me blankly, doubting whether her ears had deceived her. Sect leader. Industrialization, productive forces. What kind of demonic technique is that? I smiled and explained patiently, to put it simply. We must begin seizing the righteous path's business ventures. Do they not rely on selling medicinal pills, dharma treasures, and talismans to monopolize the resources of the cultivation world? Then we shall do what they excel at most. Furthermore, we shall wage a price war. Not only will we undersell them, but our quality will be superior. During my period of cultivation deviation years ago, I gained enlightenment into several unique methods of alchemy and weapon forging. What I was referring to, of course, was the modern industrial management mindset in my head, along with the scientific restructuring of spirit herb energy. Although my cultivation is only at the half-step tribulation transcendent stage, my divine sense and comprehension have long been beyond the reach of ordinary men. Sect leader, will this truly work? Tu Qingyu hesitated slightly. Those righteous path sects possess millennia of heritage. Their arts of alchemy and forging reached perfection long ago. Our demonic disciples are accustomed only to slaughter and combat. How could they manage such delicate tasks? I patted her shoulder and spoke firmly. Trust me, constant slaughter is the lowest of methods. To use commerce to sever their economic lifelines, that is the true path of the supreme demonic Tao. Think about it, when those arrogant sect leaders of the righteous path discover that the pills they spent decades laboriously refining cannot even compete with our mass-produced street goods, what will become of them? Su Qingyu's eyes sparkled. She followed my train of thought, imagining how they would be driven to madness and erupt in fury. Exactly, I clapped my hands, overcome with excitement. They will curse us for being shameless, they will call us despicable, and they might even lead a mob to tear down our shop. And the moment they dare to attack and insult me, I can farm experience points like a madman. This plan was truly flawless. It was time to put it into motion. Over the following month, the headquarters of the Qingyun demon sect underwent an earth-shattering transformation. Under my guidance, the once gloomy and terrifying square before the demon suppression tower was repurposed into a massive assembly line factory. Hundreds of demon sect disciples cast aside their skull-emblazoned black robes, replacing them with standardized blue labor uniforms. No longer did they study the refinement of lethal poisons. Instead, they strictly followed the ratios I provided. They ground, filtered, and heated common spiritual herbs, finally using molds to press them into perfectly round, low-grade chi recovery pills. The heat must be controlled precisely at 30%. You there, restrain your demonic energy a bit. Do not tarnish the pill. We must ensure every single elixir has a purity level of over 90%. With my hands clasped behind my back, I patrolled the factory grounds, carrying the imposing air of a demon sect factory overseer. Meanwhile, Sue stood to the side with a ledger in hand, diligently recording each day's output. Initially, she had harbored doubts regarding my decision, but when the first batch of low-grade chi recovery pills, free of impurities, highly potent and exceptionally fast-acting, emerged from the kiln, she was left utterly speechless. Elixirs of such quality, even if produced by Medicine King Valley, the #1 alchemy sect of the righteous path, would surely be sold for the high price of 10 low-grade spirit stones. Yet by utilizing our mass production assembly line, the cost of manufacturing these pills was less than half a spirit stone. Cult leader, you are truly an unparalleled genius. Su Qingyu gazed at the crates of shimmering elixirs, her voice trembling with emotion. With such divine medicine, how could our sect fail to prosper? I rubbed my nose, feeling a slight pang of guilt. Stay humble. This is merely a basic maneuver. This is just the beginning. Now immediately dispatch men to Tianya City to establish our Kingyun General Store. Remember, set the price at 2 low-grade spirit stones per pill. We are going to undercut the entire market. Skycliff City was originally the largest gathering hub for cultivators within a 10,000-mile radius. Shops lined the streets here, the vast majority of which were controlled by the various righteous sects. The 100 Herbs Pavilion, established by the Medicine King Valley, was the preeminent medicinal pill shop in the city. On that particular day, the manager of the 100 Herbs Pavilion, an outer sect elder of the Medicine King Valley named Li Yukai, sat with his legs crossed, smugly enjoying his tea in a grand armchair. He was a tycoon who monopolized 80% of the city's medicinal pill trade. He never had to worry about a lack of customers. However, by midday, the 100 Herbs Pavilion, which should have been bustling with activity, was strangely deserted with not a single customer bothering to enter. Li Yukai felt a flicker of doubt. He set down his teacup and frowned at the clerk beside him, asking, "What is happening today? Where has everyone gone?" The clerk was equally bewildered, wiping beads of sweat from his forehead as he replied, "Reporting to the manager, I just went out to investigate the situation. It is said that a new shop called the Azure Cloud General Store has opened at the street corner. They are running some sort of grand opening promotion. A single chi recovery pill costs a mere 2 low-grade spirit stones." "What?" Li Yukai bolted upright and slammed his hand against the table. 2 spirit stones? Preposterous. That is not even enough to cover the cost of the raw herbs. They are courting their own destruction. Follow me. I shall see for myself exactly which death-seeking rogue cultivator dares to enter my territory and disrupt the market. When Liu Kai led his group of clerks to the entrance of the Azure Cloud General Store, he was utterly stunned by the scene before him. The entire street was so densely packed that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Countless low-level rogue cultivators and even disciples from several minor sects were waving spirit stones in their hands, desperately clamoring to get inside the shop. "Give me 50 pills." They waved their spirit stones, frantically crowding their way into the store. "Give me 50, I'll take a..." The purity of this medicinal pill is incredibly high. I just tried one and it is far superior to anything from the 100 Herb Pavilion. At only 2 spirit stones, it is practically a gift. Shopkeeper selling medicine like this isn't a business, it's an act of charity. Hearing the cheers of the crowd, Li Yutai's expression darkened until it looked as though it might drip ink. He pushed through the crowd and strode into the shop. He was about to slam the table and unleash a torrent of abuse when he suddenly noticed the person busy collecting money behind the counter. It turned out to be none other than the saintess of the demonic sect, Su Qingyo. Meanwhile, the person sitting to the side, leisurely sipping tea and waving a folding fan, was an old man. Wasn't he the same old demon Qingyun who has reigned supreme over the world recently? The moment Li Yutai caught a clear glimpse of Su Qingyu and me, the curses that were about to spill from his lips were swallowed back down as his entire body froze in place. His back was instantly drenched in a cold sweat. Old demon Qingyun, this cold-blooded monster who kills without blinking, why on earth was he here running a general store? Moreover, seeing the situation, it appeared he was personally presiding over the shop. The flames of Liu Tai's arrogance were instantly extinguished, replaced by overwhelming fear and a desperate internal struggle. If he did not provoke them, his family business would be utterly ruined. But if he did provoke them, this man was a terrifying existence, one who had even forced the great elder of the Heaven and Earth Sword sect to kneel and beg for his life. Sitting to the side, I naturally noticed the shift in Liu Tai's demeanor, and I grew secretly impatient. "Go on, shopkeeper Li, hurry up and open your mouth to curse me. I opened this shop right across from your 100 Herb Pavilion specifically to steal your business and force you to confront me, didn't I? What is with that hesitant expression, looking as though you are suffering from severe constipation?" Should I give him a little more courage? I intentionally let out a long sigh, feigning a look of extreme frailty and weakness. I covered my mouth with a handkerchief and coughed violently several times before speaking weakly to Su Qingyu. "Qingyu, I fear this decrepit body of mine won't last much longer. If it weren't for the thousands of starving disciples in our sect, why would I drag this old body, which already has 1 foot in the grave, out here to engage in such a lowly trade?" Su Qingyu played her part perfectly, her face instantly clouding with a look of deep sorrow. "Sect master, say no more. You have already sacrificed far too much for the sake of the sect." However, this scene falling upon Li Yukai's eyes caused his recently dampened ambition to flare up once more. In an instant, countless thoughts flashed through his mind like bolts of lightning. Indeed, the rumors say this old demon Qingyun has been in seclusion within the demon suppression tower for 100 years. If he were not truly on the verge of death, why would he stoop so low as to engage in such demeaning trade and lower his own status? Where is the dignity he once held? He must surely be in desperate need of a vast amount of spirit stones to purchase heavenly treasures just to prolong his fading life. His current self is nothing more than a paper tiger, struggling to maintain a hollow facade. Thinking of this, and looking at the 90% drop in daily revenue at the 100 Herb Pavilion, Li Yukai's recklessness finally reached its breaking point. He suddenly took a step forward, pointing directly at my nose and shouting at the top of his lungs, "Old thief Qingyun, cease this pathetic display of playing the victim. You sinister and treacherous demon, why did you not stay hidden in your filthy gutter? To think you dared come to Skyzen City to disrupt and monopolize our trade. You used toxic pills filled with heretical energy to deceive these rogue cultivators. You have utterly tarnished the 1,000-year reputation of my Medicine King Valley. You are a despicable, shameless scoundrel who disregards every rule of our craft. You are fundamentally unworthy of pursuing the path of immortality. You are a cancer upon the cultivation world. System notification. Host has been slandered and insulted by a soul transformation stage cultivator. The Medicine King Valley Outer Sect Elder has delivered extreme humiliation and defamation. Humiliation level 3 stars, activating a hundredfold amplification effect. Cultivation breakthrough, half-step tribulation stage. Sect promoted to the early tribulation stage. At that moment, the unbreakable bottleneck within my mind felt like mere parchment under Liu Kai's torrent of vulgar insults. It collapsed instantly. Billowing tribulation clouds began to frantically gather in the skies above Sky's End City. This was the resonance of heaven and earth that belongs only to one entering the tribulation stage. I felt a surge of euphoria so profound, it was as if my entire being was ascending. Shopkeeper Li, you truly are a saint. This single roar of yours has saved me at least 1,000 years of bitter cultivation. My face was a mask of wild ecstasy as I abruptly stood up and seized Liu Kai's hand, moved to the point of tears. Shopkeeper, please, say more. I beg of you, make your words even more foul. Just now you called me a cancer of the cultivation world. What else is there? Will my children be born cursed and deformed? Are my medicinal pills nothing but worthless trash? Quickly now, do not stop. Liu Kai was utterly bewildered. He stared at his hand, held firmly in my grip, and then at my crazed, ecstatic expression. His entire being seemed frozen in the wind. What on earth was wrong with this old devil? I had pointed at his face and cursed him, yet instead of killing me, he looked grateful, clutching my hand and begging for more abuse. Had he truly lost his mind? But before Liu Kai could make sense of it, a terrifying explosion echoed from the heavens, drawing everyone's attention. Rumble, rumble, rumble! Within the ink-black clouds, countless streaks of purple lightning surged and roared like flood dragons. The overwhelming pressure of the heavenly Tao radiated from within, forcing every cultivator in Sky's Edge City to tremble with the urge to kneel in submission. What is this? A heavenly tribulation? Why is there such a terrifying tribulation? Could a senior expert be attempting to transcend the tribulation and ascend to immortality here? Rogue cultivators fled the streets in terror, while Liu Kai's legs turned to jelly, causing him to collapse to the ground. He stared blankly at the purple lightning clouds drawing closer, suddenly realizing a horrific truth. These lightning clouds suddenly realized an extremely terrifying truth. These lightning clouds seemed to be centering themselves directly over the Qingyun department store. In other words, the one about to face the tribulation was none other than the old devil standing before him, clutching his hand with a foolish grin. You are about to face the tribulation. Liu Kai's voice trembled, barely a whisper. Looking at the lightning tribulation above my head, even I was somewhat speechless. Damn it, in my excitement, I forgot that breaking through to the tribulation transcendence stage requires enduring lightning strikes. Although my cultivation has reached the early tribulation stage, I don't have a single defensive Dharma treasure on me. If this heavenly tribulation strikes, I fear this new body of mine will be instantly scorched into charcoal. But on second thought, would being turned into charcoal count as being defeated? My constitution requires me to be ridiculed to grow stronger. If I'm killed outright by heavenly lightning, it truly will be the end of me. Therefore, I must resist this tribulation. Qingyue, all of you, get back. I let out a loud shout, released Liu Kai's hand, and my figure blurred, bursting through the roof of the shop and soaring into the sky. With my hands clasped behind my back, I stood firm, facing. I intentionally shouted at the top of my lungs. Thief of the heavens, if you have the skill, then strike me dead. Does a blind will like yours truly dare to oppose this seat? Come then, strike me. I did this solely to see if I could trigger the Heavenly Tao's mockery mechanism. After all, the Heavenly Tao is considered a form of consciousness. If my provocations enrage it into striking me with lightning, perhaps it could be an unconventional method of ascension. At that moment, the countless onlookers below, having heard these arrogant words, and witnessing my utter lack of reverence for the Heavenly Tao, were all frozen in sheer disbelief. Liu Kai, sprawling amidst the rubble, gazed at the godlike figure in the sky, the terror in his eyes reaching its zenith. He actually dares to provoke the Heavenly Tao. He is insane. He has truly lost his mind. But why? Why is his aura so maddened? He has truly gone mad. But why? Why does his aura continue to grow more powerful? Indeed, it was because I had just achieved a breakthrough to the tribulation transcendent stage. The spiritual energy within my body was rapidly transforming. In the eyes of others, this served as ironclad proof that by provoking the heavens, I was continuously gaining supreme power. The first bolt of purple heavenly lightning, carrying a momentum capable of shattering heaven and earth, struck me squarely in the chest. I felt a wave of numbness spread through my entire body, and the force sent me spinning through the air. With my hair standing on end, the system detected that the host was undergoing the lightning baptism of the Heavenly Tao's laws. Since this was a physical punishment and did not involve any personal humiliation, the strengthening effect could not be activated. Pah, that actually hurts. I wiped the black soot from my face, feeling a hint of disappointment. It seems the Heavenly Tao truly lacks any sentient emotion. It will not mock me on a spiritual level. Thus I have no choice but to endure this burden on my own. I took a deep breath, the peak of the integration stage. No, that's not right. At this moment, my tribulation-level divine sense erupted with its full might. My divine sense at the early tribulation stage exploded with total power. My tribulation divine sense surged with everything it had, condensing into a massive golden phantom of the divine soul within the void. He easily crushed the subsequent bolts of heavenly lightning into dust. To the mortals and cultivators of Heavenly Cliff City watching from below, the scene was nothing short of a divine miracle. They witnessed the violent purple lightning, powerful enough to annihilate the entire city. Yet in the hands of that old demon, the bolts were like soft silken threads manipulated at will before being shattered. The overwhelming radiance of the lightning cascading over him did not harm him in the slightest. Instead, it enhanced his appearance, making him look like a supreme lightning god emerging from ancient times. Heavens, is this truly a heavenly tribulation? Why do I feel as if Senior Ching Yun is using this lightning tribulation merely to bathe? Truly powerful, truly formidable. This is absolutely not the early stage of the tribulation realm. This is at least the great perfection of the tribulation realm, perhaps even a great transformation realm immortal preparing to ascend. Manager Lee of the Medicine King Valley, this is at least the great perfection of the tribulation realm, or even an immortal of the great transformation realm on the verge of ascension. That Manager Lee of the Medicine King Valley dared to insult such a being as the scourge of the cultivation world. It is a miracle that he is still alive at this moment. The chatter of the rogue cultivators reached Liu Kai's ears, every single word stinging. Huddled in a corner, watching me toy with the heavenly tribulation mid-air, he was nearly frightened out of his wits. He finally realized the magnitude of his foolish mistake. What final glow? What paper tiger? This person was clearly powerful enough to summon a heavenly tribulation at any time and place. He was even using the tribulation to temper his physical body. It was an unbelievable level of cultivation. His earlier tirade in the eyes of such a master was likely less significant than the barking of a lowly ant. Senior, please spare my life. This junior knows his mistake. I truly understand my error now. Like a stray dog, Liu Kai desperately kowtowed, his head striking the ground repeatedly. After a moment, the tribulation clouds seemed to realize their futility against me and sullenly dispersed, allowing the brilliant sunlight to shine through once more. I lightly descended to the ground. Though my blue uniform was somewhat tattered, my spirit was more vibrant than ever. The early stage of the tribulation realm. I have truly become a powerhouse of the tribulation realm. I brushed the black ash from my clothes and looked with a hint of regret at my now empty shop. Alas, my perfectly fine shop has been completely erased by the lightning. It seems the Qingyun General Store requires some major renovations. However, seeing Liu Kai kowtowing frantically with a face devoid of blood, a glint of amusement flashed in my eyes. No matter. If the shop is gone, it can be rebuilt, as long as this power bank of mine remains. Manager Lee, your insults earlier were quite impressive. I walked leisurely toward him and helped him up, my tone exceptionally gentle. This venerable one has been in seclusion for many years, and my state of mind had grown somewhat dusty. I must thank Manager Lee for awakening me today, allowing me to successfully break through my cultivation realm. To show my gratitude, I have decided. Upon hearing my words, Liu Tai let out a cry of terror and fell to his knees once more. Senior, spare my life. This junior truly did not know you were such a peerless master. This junior is willing to offer the entire assets of the 100 Herbs Pavilion. I only beg that senior spares my worthless life. I felt somewhat helpless. I only intended to say that as a gesture of gratitude, I had decided to allow him to come and berate me every single day. How could he possibly be terrified to such an extent? He is truly far too cowardly. Following the battle at Heavenly Cliff City, the outer sect of the Medicine King Valley officially declared their submission. They not only surrendered the territory of the 100 Herbs Pavilion, but also dispatched messengers to deliver a vast quantity of cultivation resources and spirit stones. Their official pretext was to congratulate Senior Ching Yun on his breakthrough. Yet, in truth, everyone knew they feared that I, the eternal undying old demon, might one day be in a foul mood, and casually trample the main peak of the Medicine King Valley into dust. Seizing this opportunity, the business of the Qingyun department store expanded rapidly. Over the next few months, chain stores of our demonic sect opened in dozens of major cities surrounding Heavenly Cliff City. We did not just sell low-level, medicinal pills, we even released affordable spirit talismans. We mass-produced flying swords alongside a wide array of highly valuable cultivation supplies. In an instant, the perception of the low to mid-tier rogue cultivators across the entire cultivation world toward our demonic sect shifted drastically. Previously, they had always heard the leaders of the righteous path claim that the demonic sect was murderous, vile, and shameless. But looking at it now, the only one who truly cares for us rogue cultivators is Ancestor Qingyun. Indeed, a single Qi recovery pill from the Medicine King Valley costs 10 spirit stones, while the Qingyun department store only asks for 2. Who then is the true heretical evil? The answer is clear at a glance. I suggest we spontaneously establish longevity tablets for Senior Qingyun and pray for his eternal life. We shall spontaneously establish longevity tablets for Senior Qingyun and pray for his eternal life. As I looked at the reports from the Heavenly Tao Alliance showing that public opinion in the nearby cities was spiraling out of control, I felt utterly devastated. What I needed was a notorious and evil reputation. I needed you all to come and curse me, to come and destroy my shops. What is this nonsense about establishing longevity tablets for me? If things continue to develop at this rate, sooner or later I will end up becoming the guiding light of the... By then won't this unique constitution of mine, which relies on being reviled to grow stronger, be rendered entirely worthless? I must orchestrate a massive incident. As I sat atop the demon-suppressing tower, racking my brain for a way to restore my image as a ruthless tyrant, Su Qingyu entered, her expression etched with exhaustion. Lately, she had been so consumed by the business of our chain of stores that her feet barely touched the ground. She had grown noticeably thinner. Yet, within her eyes sparkled a brilliance I had never seen before. Reporting to the sect leader, this is the financial summary for this month. She presented a thick jade slip before me. Her voice trembled slightly as she explained that after deducting all expenses and disciple benefits, this month we have achieved a net profit of 300,000 high-grade spirit stones. Furthermore, more than 10 smaller sects and rogue cultivator groups have expressed their desire to merge with our sect and become our outer court branches. 300,000 high-grade spirit stones. In the past, this was a staggering fortune that the demonic sect wouldn't have even dared to dream of. Looking at the girl before me, her face flushed with excitement, a strange sense of heartache washed over me. She was originally the high and mighty holy maiden of the demonic sect, yet now to help an unreliable sect leader like myself achieve his dreams, she had forced herself to become a powerhouse in the world of commerce. Qingyu, you have worked hard. I reached out and gently stroked her head. In that moment, a stream of gentle spiritual energy flowed from my fingertips into her body. It immediately dispelled all the fatigue and internal injuries she had accumulated over time. Su Qingyu's slender frame trembled slightly. She lifted her head, gazing at me in a daze. She lifted her head, gazing at me in a daze. In her eyes, beyond fervent adoration, lay a flicker of affection and longing hidden deep within her heart. At this moment, it could no longer be concealed. Sect leader, as long as I can share your burdens, I am willing to do anything. Her face flushed crimson as she bashfully lowered her head. I looked at her and sighed inwardly. What have I done? Truly, I'm inviting trouble. I clearly only wanted to be provoked and beaten so I could grow stronger. How did I end up not only becoming a savior but also accidentally capturing the heart of my own holy maiden? However, in this cultivation world where the tree craves stillness but the wind refuses to cease, our rapid rise has finally overstepped the boundaries of several colossal powers. On that day, the sky was clear and the clouds were sparse, yet the atmosphere throughout the Qingyun Demon Sect headquarters was so oppressive it felt suffocating. Piercing alarms echoed throughout the mountains and forests. The mountain-protecting array had sensed the intrusion of an incredibly powerful enemy. I stepped out from the demon suppression tower, standing atop the mountain peak and looking down. There, upon the distant horizon, a fleet of brilliant golden warships so vast they blotted out the sun came soaring toward us. Atop the ships, the banners of the Heavens Tao Alliance fluttered in the wind, alongside the Flying Cloud Pavilion, the Medicine King Valley, and the Qiankun Sword Sect. Nearly every renowned righteous sect one could name was present in full force. At a glance, there were at least thousands of warships. A sharp, piercing aura emanated from them, shredding the dark clouds in the sky into mere fragments. Sect leader, something terrible has happened. Su Qingyu, leading the 4 great guardians and a newly assembled host of core disciples, rushed toward me with a panicked expression. Xuanjizi, the alliance leader of the Heavens Tao Alliance, is personally leading the righteous army. They claim our sect is conspiring with the demon race and is manipulating the markets of the cultivation world. They have come today specifically to eradicate evil and uphold the Tao, restoring purity to the heavens and earth, conspiring with the demon race. I let out a cold laugh. Truly, if one wishes to cast blame, any excuse will suffice. It is clear that our price cutting has shattered their long-held monopolies. Indeed, when they want to frame you, any pretext will do. It is clear that because we slashed our prices, their monopoly has crumbled, yet they still feel the need to brandish a righteous excuse to take action. However, as I gazed at those golden warships filling the sky and sensed several powerful auras of the Tribulation Transcendence realm hidden within, and even caught glimpses of a terrifying presence far beyond the Tribulation Transcendence realm, one reaching the Great Perfection realm, my heart began to thrum with a wild intensity at that very moment. This is magnificent. Or rather, it is beyond spectacular. The Heavens Tao Alliance has mobilized almost their entire force. Even their alliance leader, Xuanjizi, has come in person. This is the ultimate gathering of the most elite experts in the cultivation world. As long as they dare to open their mouths to insult me today, as long as they dare to beat me within an inch of my life in front of the whole world, then wouldn't my cultivation soar to the heavens in a single bound? Breaking through directly to the great ascension stage, the peak of tribulation transcendence, or even achieving ascension in broad daylight. Hear my command. I took a deep breath, suppressing the wild ecstasy in my heart, and feigned an air of heroic defiance as if viewing death as light as a feather. This matter concerns the very survival of our sect. I shall personally stand at the front lines to shield you from the wind and rain. Remember, no matter what happens later, stay within the formation. Do not come out to throw your lives away. The fate of this sect shall be borne by me alone. Upon hearing my vow, sect leader Su Qingyu and all the disciples of the demonic sect were moved to tears. We swear to live and die with the sect leader. The demonic sect is eternal. Qingyun shall endure. Hearing the earth-shaking cheers behind me, I was secretly weeping in my heart. No, please don't swear to live and die with me. I just want to find a comfortable position to be insulted and then level up. If you all rush out and drive the righteous sects away, who will I have left to cry to? A moment later, those thousands of warships came to a halt before our main peak. On the massive lead flagship, an old man in deep blue Taoist robes, holding a horsetail whisk and exuding an immortal aura, slowly stepped forward. This man was the leader of the Heavenly Tao Alliance, a great ascension stage powerhouse Xuanjizi. He looked down at me coldly, speaking in an extremely frigid tone. Old thief Qingyun, you have condoned your disciples' despicable and shameless acts of price dumping, destroying the thousand-year-old rules of our cultivation world, and even plotting to use heretical teachings to delude the hearts of those in the mortal realm. Today, I, Xuanjizi, acting in accordance with the will of heaven, lead 100,000 soldiers of the righteous path to raise your filth-ridden Qingyun demonic sect to the ground. If you have any shred of self-awareness left, kneel immediately, cripple your own cultivation, and surrender the treasure maps and alchemy secrets with both hands. Perhaps then, this old man might spare your disciples across these mountains from the suffering of reincarnation. In the sky, accompanying Xuanjizi's booming voice, countless flashes of lightning flickered, and the terrifying pressure of the great ascension stage weighed down like a massive mountain upon the souls of every demonic sect disciple. As I lifted my head to face the crushing weight of that pressure, yet a brilliantly radiant smile began to spread across the corners of my mouth, a smile of pure unadulterated happiness. Xuanjizi stood tall upon his shimmering golden flagship, gazing down at me. His brow could not help but furrow slightly. He had lived for thousands of years and had crossed blades with countless monstrous devil cultivators. Even 5 centuries ago, he had witnessed from afar the sheer majesty of my power, back when a single palm strike of mine could shatter half a mountain. In his calculations, when faced with this righteous army of 100,000, I should have either been consumed by rage, cursing the heavens, or trembling with anxiety, desperately trying to maintain a facade of strength. Yet now, not only did I lack any trace of panic, but I looked up at him with a gaze that was gentle, almost affectionate, almost longing. That smile and that gaze caused even a Mahayana realm expert of 3,000 years to feel a chill run down his spine. Old thief Qingyun, what are you laughing at? Xuanjizi gave a cold snort and swept his horsetail whisk through the air. A visible wave of golden energy surged forward like a rolling tide. In an instant, the massive boulder outside our sect's gate was pulverized into nothing but dust. Do you truly believe that your newly attained tribulation transcendence cultivation is enough to stand defiantly against this army of 100,000? Do you think you can preserve the lives of these demonic remnants? I took a step forward, clasping my hands behind my back. I intentionally projected an air of supreme arrogance, an insufferable presence as I spoke with the utmost contempt. Xuanjizi, what was that you said? You demand that this seat cripple his own cultivation and hand over my secret alchemy techniques with both hands? Bah, I spat forcefully on the ground. Though my spiritual power was not yet at its peak, bolstered by my half-step tribulation divine sense, that spit traced a perfect arc through the air, landing less than 3 zhang away from Xuanjizi's flagship. You hypocrite, speaking of benevolence and morality while hiding a degenerate soul. Your Heavenly Tao Alliance is nothing more than a pack of merchants blinded by greed. Having failed to compete with this seat's business, you've rallied this rabble from every corner just to commit robbery. Have you no shame left in that old face of yours? Come then, this seat stands right here today. If anyone can even touch a single hair on my body, I shall call them my grandfather, especially you. Xuanjizi, you look like nothing more than a turtle hiding in its shell. If you have the courage, come down here and face me in a duel. Boom, his relentless insults and provocations fired off like a barrage of artillery, instantly plunging the entire sky into a deathly silence. At this moment, the 100,000 righteous cultivators looked at one another in utter bewilderment. That was Alliance leader Xuanjizi himself, an expert at the early stage of the Great Ascension realm. He is the universally acknowledged #1 master of the cultivation world. Yet old devil Qingyun dared to point directly at his nose, branding him a sanctimonious hypocrite and a total fraud, even calling him a cowardly shrinking turtle. Such arrogance is truly beyond measure. How could this old devil possibly dare to be so bold? Atop the flagship, Xuanjizi's face, which usually bore a sage-like and transcendental composure, turned a deep crimson in an instant as if it were about to burst with blood. His entire body trembled violently, and the flames of fury in his eyes nearly manifested into a physical eruption. Good, very well, old devil Qingyun, we haven't met for 500 years, and it seems your arrogance has truly reached its peak. If I do not tear you into 1,000 pieces today, I, this old man, swear I am no longer human. Old devil Qingyun, you dying starved ghost, you despicable, shameless maggot. Finally unable to contain himself, Xuanjizi let out a thunderous roar of rage. Following his furious roar, a torrent of vile and harsh insults rained down upon me. Do you think you can deceive the world just by using those demonic techniques to dominate the market? You are nothing more than a practitioner of evil arts who should have been executed long ago. You are the dregs of society. In this lifetime, do not even dream of stepping through the gates of the immortal realm. You are a piece of trash destined to never hold your head high. Detection. Host is being subjected to personal attacks and verbal insults by the Alliance leader of the Heavenly Tao Alliance, a Great Ascension realm cultivator. Cultivation breakthrough, early stage of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. 5-star insult intensity detected, activating 100x empowerment effect. Cultivation breaks through the early stage of Tribulation Transcendence, successfully ascending to the mid-stage of Tribulation Transcendence, cultivation rising further to the late stage of Tribulation Transcendence, cultivation reaching the great perfection of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. Rumble, rumble, rumble. With every insult from Xuanjizi, the spiritual energy within me acted as if 10,000 barrels of gunpowder had been ignited, exploding and surging frantically. The supreme aura belonging to the great perfection of the tribulation transcendence realm erupted from my body at that very moment like a volcano that had been dormant for 10,000 years. A brilliant golden radiance shot straight through the 9 layers of heaven, dyeing all the auspicious clouds that had gathered in the sky upon the arrival of the righteous army into a shade of supreme majestic purple gold. Xuanji's torrent of insults came to an abrupt halt. He stared blankly at the old man in midair, whose aura was surging at a speed so frenzied it defied all logic, his entire being frozen in shock. How could this be possible? He had clearly probed the man's power moments ago. My true cultivation had only just entered the tribulation transcendence realm. Yet after he had hurled only a few insults, this man's cultivation had skyrocketed from the early tribulation stage to the great circle of the tribulation realm in an instant. Furthermore, that momentum seemed even more condensed and terrifying than Xuanji's own early Mahayana cultivation. Alliance leader, he seems to have broken through. The white-robed elder beside the sect master of the Medicine King Valley was also at the late tribulation stage, but at this moment he was trembling with absolute terror. He asked in a faltering, shaky voice, sensing a power within that body so immense it could seemingly shatter the very stars. I was so exhilarated that I nearly danced in midair. This sensation was pure, unadulterated bliss. A 5-star intensity insult directly consecrated by a Mahayana powerhouse had allowed me to leap across 3 minor realms at once, saving me tens of thousands of years of bitter cultivation. I looked at Xuanjizi, my eyes burning with fervor and anticipation. My great benefactor, you truly live up to the title of Alliance Leader of the Heavenly Tao Alliance. Your professionalism is indeed top tier. Alliance Leader Xuanjizi, please, do not stop now. I took a step forward, shouting with a momentum that shook the very heavens. Did you not just call me a demonic maggot? What else? Am I not even worth as much as a stray dog by the roadside? Did you not want to flay my skin to make insoles for your shoes? Hurry, hurl a few more insults. I am listening. Witnessing my face, which was twisted with excitement, combined with the pressure of the great circle of the tribulation realm that threatened to tear the void apart, Xuanji was finally truly seized by panic. In his 3,000 years of life, he had never witnessed who would, on the brink of a life-and-death struggle, desperately plead for their enemy to insult them with such bloodshot eyes. Why is it that the more I curse him, the stronger his power becomes? Could it be that this old devil Qing Yun is practicing an incredibly rare technique, one never before seen in the cultivation world, known as the karmic retribution demonic transformation art? Could it be that this old devil Qing Yun is practicing an incredibly rare technique, one never before seen in the cultivation world, known as the karmic retribution demonic transformation art? As long as others harbor negative emotions or launch verbal assaults against him, he can forcibly absorb their providence and spiritual energy to increase his own power. At this realization, Xuanji felt icy shiver run down her spine. The other righteous sect leaders nearby also deduced this terrifying possibility. Each and every one of them displayed looks of sheer horror. The sect leader of the Qiangkun sword sect rushed forward, shielding Xuanji as he cried out in panic, "This old devil is acting strangely. He is intentionally provoking us to absorb our resentment to fuel his cultivation." Ancient records mention a type of formless heart demon from the primordial era that used such methods to devour gods and immortals. No wonder he remained in seclusion for a century. He doesn't need the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. What he craves is our hatred. Heavens, this old devil has hidden his true nature too well. We have fallen into his trap. Hearing them speculate with such conviction and logic, I feel as though my head might explode. Formless heart demon, karmic transformation art? How was I unaware that I possessed such formidable powers? You righteous powerhouses, could you please stop reading those strange ancient texts? Be sincere for once and stop overthinking. Just curse me or use your army of 100,000 to strike me down. Fellow cultivators, do not be deceived by him. Xuanji's expression turned solemn as she forced herself to remain calm. Even if he achieved a breakthrough, he was still but one man. We have 100,000 righteous elites. By forming the 9 heavens demon-slaying array, even a cultivator at the great perfection of the Mahayana realm will surely have their soul extinguished. Strike. At Chi's command, the thousands of warships in the sky instantly mobilized. 100,000 cultivators sat cross-legged in unison. They began chanting incantations as radiant golden spiritual light erupted from their bodies. The lights intertwined and converged in midair, forming a golden celestial phantom over 10,000 feet tall, holding a colossal sword in its hands. A keen aura radiated from the blade, causing the hundreds of peaks surrounding the Qingyun demon sect to be shaved down by several yards in an instant. "Qingyun, you old scoundrel, prepare to die." With a flick of Xuanji's horsetail whisk, the celestial phantom stepped forward. Its giant sword, carrying the power to sunder heaven and earth, struck down directly at my head. The might of this single strike was truly beyond imagination. Though I am at the great perfection of the tribulation transcendent stage, I know all too well that if I were to face this head-on, my physical body, devoid of any defensive artifacts, would lose at least half its life. But did I dodge? Of course not. Ha ha ha! Excellent. I laughed aloud. Not only did I not retreat, but I even withdrew every ounce of defensive spiritual energy from my body. Spreading my arms wide as I stood suspended in midair, I closed my eyes to welcome the massive golden sword, a blade larger than a mountain. Come, defeat me. If this strike of yours can shatter my body, then upon my rebirth I will surely be able to ascend to immortality on the spot. Below, sect leader Suchingyu let out a harrowing, mournful cry. She wanted to rush forward to take the blow for me, but she was bound within the formation by the restriction I had previously placed. She could only watch helplessly as that gargantuan golden sword completely devoured my small figure. Boom! In that moment, it was as if heaven and earth had lost all color. A blinding golden light accompanied the violent explosion, causing the space within a 100-mile radius to tremble and distort. Dust and debris surged into the azure clouds, completely veiling the once clear sky. Aboard the command vessel, Xuanjizi gazed into the chaotic center of the explosion. He exhaled a long sigh of relief, his forehead drenched in sweat. That strike had concentrated the majority of the spiritual energy from himself and 100,000 cultivators. Even for a being at the peak of the Mahayana stage, facing such a blow head-on would result in only one end, the total dissipation of one's soul. Did we succeed? The Valley Master of the Medicine King Valley looked around nervously. Has that old devil been reduced to ash? Haha, naturally. The sect leader of the Cancun Sword sect laughed aloud. Before the Nine Heavens demon-slaying grand formation, all evil heretics are reduced to nothingness. Qingyun, that old devil, has finally paid for his crimes. The 100,000 righteous cultivators surrounding the area finally smiled, feeling as though a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Yet, just as they were about to erupt in cheers to celebrate their victory, amidst the dissipating clouds of dust in the sky, a brilliant violet-gold radiance suddenly flared up, so blinding that none could look at it directly. Within that light, a familiar silhouette slowly emerged. I stood suspended in midair, looking down at my body. Though my clothes were slightly tattered, I remained completely unscathed. I then let out a deep, melancholy sigh. Due to the host's cultivation reaching the great perfection of the tribulation transcendent stage, his physical body has partially fused with the laws of heaven and earth. The power of the Heavenly Tao Alliance's Nine Heavens demon-slaying array is insufficient to destroy the host's physical body. The judgment of defeat has failed. The host has suffered a minor shock and his physical toughness has increased tenfold. Good heavens! An array of 100,000 people, and this is all it amounts to? Is this truly the extent of your power? Not even my skin was grazed. It only made me feel a slight warmth, as if I had just stepped out of a steam room. This current generation of the righteous path, do you all truly spend your days eating nothing but vegetables? I turned my head, looking at Xuanjizi with a sense of helplessness. Alliance leader Xuanjizi, were you merely scratching an itch for me just now? Could you perhaps put a bit more strength into it? This venerable one's old bones haven't even had the chance to warm up yet. Dead silence fell over the 100,000 righteous troops. The moment they saw me standing tall and unharmed amidst the lingering lightning, every smile froze. Countless eyes widened in shock, and some were so shaken they could no longer even hold their Dharma treasures steady. This is impossible. Xuanjizi's legs buckled, and he nearly tumbled headfirst off the command flagship. His eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets in disbelief. That was a demon-slaying sword strike condensed from the power of 100,000 people. Even a mountain 10,000 feet tall would have been incinerated into nothingness in the blink of an eye. Yet not only are this old devil's clothes barely torn, he isn't even winded. Just what realm of power has he reached? Could it be that he has already transcended the limits of the mortal world? Has he achieved the legendary realm of the immortals? Heavens, he actually withstood a strike from the Nine Heavens demon-slaying array with a single hand. This is no human, this is absolutely not a man. He is an immortal, a true immortal descended to earth. And then widespread chaos began to erupt among the countless low-level cultivators with fragile wills, collapsed to the ground in terror, stripped of any remaining courage to fight. At that moment, Xuanjizi completed his final and most devastating deduction. I understand now. Xuanjizi looked at me, his eyes brimming with bitterness and despair. This old master finally understands everything. Qingyun, you old scoundrel, you never suffered from chi deviation, nor were you putting on an act. The reason you have been so incredibly patient with us, even going so far as to endure the heavenly tribulation at Sky's End City, was all to seek an opportunity to break the shackles of the mortal realm during this age of Dharma decline. You did not dodge or retreat just now because you were using the combined power of our 100,000-strong righteous army to help you sever your final thread of mortal karma. You are using us to help you overcome your final inner demon tribulation of the mortal realm. Heavens! The grand array our 100,000 men struggled to create was nothing more than a whetstone for him to sharpen his path. Hearing Xuanjizi's desperate cry, I closed my eyes in agony. I wanted to weep. I truly wanted to let out a great sob. Alliance leader, I beg of you, stop concocting these stories in your head. How could I possibly have such a complex plan? I simply wanted to die so I could trade my life for a more powerful body. How could you possibly mistake me for some peerless strategist who treats heaven and earth as a chessboard to toy with 100,000 people? What drove me further into despair was seeing the demonic cult disciples below. After hearing Xuanjizi's words, they too were visibly shaken, followed immediately by wild joy and profound awe. The cult leader's divine might is peerless. He used 100,000 righteous souls as a whetstone for our supreme true immortal Qingyun. Long live the demonic cult. Su Qingyu collapsed to her knees, tears of emotion soaking her robes. In her eyes, the man who would endure the assault of 100,000 soldiers for the sake of the sect, the man who would suffer such an onslaught for her sake, yet play his enemies like pawns in the palm of his hand while laughing, had become the only deity she would ever worship in this life. As the thunderous cheers and applause surged from all sides like crashing waves, I let out a soft sigh and looked toward the dazed and broken Xuanjizi. I spoke coldly, Xuanjizi, do you have any tricks left? If not, this seat shall withdraw his forces. Xuanguzi let out a tragic laugh and waved his hand in a gesture of utter helplessness. Enough, let it be. Before an immortal, all struggle is futile. In an instant, he seemed to age 1,000 years. His once stately back began to stoop under the weight of defeat. Senior Qingyun, this junior admits defeat. The Heavenly Tao Alliance hereby honors Senior Qingyun as the sovereign of the world. We shall offer annual tributes and 5 divine bones, pleading only that Senior spares the lives of my 100,000 brothers of the righteous path. Sovereign of the cultivation world, annual tributes? I am utterly speechless at the sheer imaginative leaps of this generation's righteous path. I have schemed and calculated for so long, even going so far as to set up a street stall just to compete for business. Yet, instead of achieving my own downfall as planned, I have somehow inexplicably become the supreme ruler. The supreme ruler of the entire cultivation world. Not only did I fail to reach my goal of obscurity, but I have somehow ascended to become the absolute sovereign of all cultivators. At this rate, how am I supposed to achieve a breakthrough in the future? Must I truly rely on this great ascension stage cultivation to ascend to the higher realm? Just as I was feeling troubled, the heavenly tribulation that had previously dispersed suddenly regrouped in the sky without a moment's warning. Furthermore, the tribulation clouds were no longer purple. They had transformed into an ominous, oppressive shade of crimson. Crimson lightning clouds churned violently across the heavens. The aura radiating from them possessed none of the fairness or majesty of the heavenly Tao. Instead, it was saturated with tyranny, bloodthirst, and ultimate destruction. Even Xuangezi, who had reached the early stage of the Great Ascension realm, paled the moment he saw those crimson clouds, crying out in terror. The Red Lotus Karma Fire Tribulation. How is this possible? This is no ordinary tribulation meant for mortal cultivators. This is the legendary tribulation of destruction. It only descends when an existence that defies the natural order appears between heaven and earth, upsetting the very balance of the universe. Only then does such a cataclysmic tribulation manifest. Could it be that Senior Qingyun's power is so immense that even the heavenly Tao seeks to forcibly erase his existence? Standing midair, I gazed at the eerie crimson clouds above, an inexplicable sense of vigilance rising within my heart. For within these red lightning clouds, I sensed an extremely unusual presence. It was not merely a concentration of raw power. Deep within those crimson clouds, there seemed to be a pair of cold, mocking eyes looking down upon this hall as if watching puppets trapped in a cage. Could there be a mysterious power hidden beyond this world that even I am unaware of? This crimson tribulation is no mere breakthrough trial. It is an entity designed to prevent those from the lower realms from surpassing their limits, a cleansing process and act to suppress any who dare defy their bounds. Just as my shock and doubt peaked, the first bolt of red lightning tore through the void, carrying a terrifying heat that could melt the very laws of reality. As it descended silently upon me, the speed of this strike reached the absolute limit. Even for me, who has reached the great perfection of the tribulation transcension realm, it was nearly impossible to evade. Bring it on. Though I may not fully comprehend this, a great perfection physique is not merely for show. I took a deep breath, preparing to circulate my spiritual power to meet the blow head-on, when I suddenly felt a surge of warmth against my chest. Looking down, I discovered the map I had always kept hidden within my robes. The treasure map I had seized from Fairy Chilian all those years ago. Under the crimson glare of the lightning, it suddenly emitted a soft emerald light. That light transformed into a massive azure lotus in the void, shielding my entire body within its petals. Boom! The crimson lightning slammed into the azure lotus, sending massive waves of red and blue energy surging through the sky. The surrounding space shattered in an instant, like a broken mirror. The aftershocks of the red lotus karmic fire rained down upon the mountain below. The colossal mountain that had stood for millennia instantly melted into a surging river of lava. Hiss! Countless gasps of cold air filled the air as 100,000 righteous cultivators frantically steered their warships backward in terror. The power of this heavenly tribulation was truly too terrifying. Had it struck their warships or their grand formation, they would likely have been vaporized in an instant. Protected by the azure lotus, I gazed at the treasure map in my hand. The paths and ink marks had vanished, replaced by ancient script radiating a sense of boundless sorrow. The world is sealed. Heaven and earth are but a cage. To ascend in broad daylight is to walk into destruction. As I read those words, it felt as if 100,000 bolts of lightning had exploded in my mind simultaneously. The world is a sealed cage. Ascension is nothing more than destruction. At this moment, the countless clues I could never reconcile finally connected. Why had no one in this cultivation world ascended in the last 500 years? Why did the old monsters who reached the great perfection stage and the tribulation transcendent stage choose to enter death seclusion deep within the mountains, even claiming to have suffered from chi deviation, rather than take that final step into the immortal realm? They weren't stuck at a bottleneck. They had discovered the most horrific truth of this world. The so-called immortal realm was nothing more than a vast harvesting ground. And any powerful cultivator who dared to break through the world's boundary was, in the eyes of those nameless, terrifying entities, nothing but fattened livestock to be slaughtered at will. This crimson heavenly tribulation existed only to target those who reached the limit of their power, or the disobedient livestock who began to suspect the truth, performing a periodic, systematic erasure. I watched as the green lotus barrier slowly fractured within the void. Taking a deep breath, I finally understood why my physique allowed me to grow stronger with every defeat I suffered. This rule of the heavenly Tao, or perhaps that invisible force, was in reality using this method to force my continuous growth, driving me to perpetually break through my limits and ascend. For only in this way could I become its most perfect, ripened fruit. This was no mere game of transmigration. It was a cataclysmic conspiracy spanning across countless eras, treating the entire mortal realm as its chessboard. Although I was currently only at the half-step tribulation transcendence stage, no, I had already reached the great perfection of the tribulation transcendence stage. I could already sense the invisible noose tightened around the necks of all living beings. With that realization, I raised my head to face the crimson lightning clouds roaring in a frenzy, seemingly enraged by the green lotus's interference. A chilling light flickered within my eyes. Do you high and mighty beings truly believe you can treat me like livestock to be slaughtered at your whim? I will not walk the path of the commoner. You wish for me to ascend only to claim my life? Then today I choose to remain in this mortal realm, within this very mire you deem a cage. I shall forge a different path to invincibility. Suddenly, I extended my hands, unleashing the full might of my great perfection, spiritual energy, and divine sense without restraint. I forcibly fused the now fully activated green secret treasure into my very being. In that instant, my physical body began to undergo a profound metamorphosis. It was no longer a mere mortal shell. Under the tempering of the green lotus's power, my flawless body began to radiate a faint eternal glow. Shatter. With a thunderous roar, I threw a punch toward the descending crimson lightning. Purple gold spiritual energy clashed violently with the crimson lightning fire in the sky. A massive explosion erupted from the impact, forcibly tearing a gaping hole through the crimson tribulation clouds above. The crimson cloud seemed to sense the eternal aura of the green lotus now residing within me. After letting out several unwilling roars into the void, and bound by certain universal laws, the tribulation was ultimately unable to unleash any further lightning. Left only with the fading crimson glow that filled the horizon, it retreated slowly in sullen defeat. The sky once again reclaimed its silence, leaving only floating magma and debris scattered across the heavens. They served as a lingering testament to the horror of the heavenly tribulation that had just unfolded. I descended slowly onto the flagship, standing before Xuanjizi. At this moment, Xuanjizi and the group of righteous path sect leaders had completely lost their will to fight. They gazed at me as if they were beholding an incomprehensible deity. Senior Qingyun, who exactly are you? Xuanjizi's voice was hoarse, his eyes filled with fervent awe and trembling fear. Xuanjizi's voice was hoarse, his eyes filled with fervent awe and trembling fear. To shatter a destructive heavenly tribulation with a single strike, even in the immortal realm, you would surely be a supreme hegemon of your own domain, wouldn't you? I suppressed my aura completely, once again returning to the appearance of a frail-looking old man, yet my entire being radiated an unfathomable and profound air. I let out a soft sigh and gently patted Xuanjizi's shoulder. Alliance leader Xuanjizi, there are some truths that bring no benefit once known. I spoke with a voice heavy with melancholy and hidden depth. This seat has remained in this mortal realm for 500 years, with the sole purpose of navigating this chaotic red dust, to hold up a fragment of the sky so that our generation of cultivators may breathe freely. Let today's battle end here. Withdraw your forces. Under Senior's immense benevolence shall be engraved in our very bones. Xuanjizi trembled violently as he led 100,000 righteous path cultivators in the highest form of salutation, bowing deeply in my direction. Then, amidst the thunderous cheers of the demon sect disciples, over 1,000 golden warships began their massive retreat. They had arrived with overwhelming aggression, but they departed in absolute order. They even cleared every piece of debris on the ground, fearing they might displease me, the eternal true immortal. Once the righteous path had withdrawn, Su Qingyo and the four great protectors knelt behind me with a heavy thud. The eyes of every demon sect disciple glistened with tears. Long live the sovereign, may the sacred sect endure for eternity. I turned to look at these loyal and devoted disciples. The heavy burden in my heart, born from the truth of this world, lightened significantly in this moment. What if this world is a cage? What if we are merely ripening fruit? As long as I possess this heaven-defying constitution, the one that grows stronger through mockery, as long as I can continuously accumulate power in this mortal realm, the day will come when I lead these people to that so-called harvesting ground of the immortal realm. I will lead them to that harvesting ground and utterly crush it into oblivion. Qingyue, relay my edict. I assisted Su Qingyue to her feet, a gentle smile appearing on my face. From tomorrow onwards, the Qingyun demonic sect is officially renamed the Qingyun immortal sect. We shall expand our gates, recruiting not only disciples of the demonic path but also the world's rogue cultivators, and even those seeking the Tao from the righteous path. This seat intends to establish a true sacred land of cultivation at the foot of Mount Qingyun. This seat wishes for all cultivators under heaven to live with the dignity they deserve. The cult leader, no, the sect master's righteousness is peerless. Su Qingyue and the disciples erupted in thunderous cheers. Their voices echoed through the mountain peaks for a long time, unceasing. As for me, I stood atop the summit watching the distant sunset, a trace of pensiveness in my heart. Two at the great perfection of the Mahayana realm already. Though my strength has increased, how will I find high-level stepping stones to insult and challenge me now? It seems that within the depths of this seemingly peaceful cultivation world, I must personally visit each of the old monsters hiding in forbidden lands. The establishment of the Qingyun immortal sect sent an unprecedented shockwave throughout the entire cultivation world. The boundary between the righteous and demonic paths was significantly blurred at this very moment. Every day, tens of thousands of rogue cultivators traveled vast distances to reach the foot of Mount Qingyun, only praying to join the sect even as the most ordinary outer sect disciple. Even the righteous sects, who once gnashed their teeth in hatred toward the demonic sect, were now striving to send their most outstanding geniuses under the guise of an exchange of knowledge. In truth, everyone knew they simply wanted to cling to my powerful influence. As for me, shortly after the Great War ended, I silently departed from Mount Qingyun. I have fully consolidated my cultivation at the great perfection of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. I knew full well that if I continued to stay at the sect, I would only remain at the great perfection of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. I knew full well that if I stayed at the sect, aside from receiving endless adoration and praise every day, there would be no possibility of further increasing my strength. I must take the initiative to seek out conflict and find truly powerful ancient beings. Those who have lived for countless years and perhaps even know. According to secret intelligence sent from the Heaven's Secret Pavilion, in the extreme north of the cultivation world, there exists a forbidden zone known as the Burial Heaven Abyss. It is whispered that terrifying ancestors from the ancient era lie slumbering there. Only the heavens know how much I desired to live a quiet and peaceful life. Yet now I have become the sect leader of the Qingyun Immortal sect, the eternal true immortal whose name shakes the world. Sect leader, this is the 9-piece travel set Qingyu has prepared for you. Su Qingyu held up a storage bag taller than a person, standing before me with a look of absolute solemnity. My lips twitched as I gazed upon the mountain of treasures, medicinal pills, and divine weapons. There was even a blanket embroidered with golden dragons. Qingyu, I am merely taking a stroll to the Burial Heaven Abyss in the extreme north. I am not moving my entire household. Her eyes reddened instantly, and with a choked voice she replied, Sect leader, please do not hide the truth from Qingyu any longer. Alliance leader Xuanjizi has already spoken. Within the Burial Heaven Abyss lie slumbering ancient monsters, where not only is spiritual energy depleted, but frigid gales can erode one's very primordial spirit. To seek the path of ascension for us juniors, you are willing to risk your fragile health and venture into such peril. Qingyu is useless. I cannot share the sect leader's burdens. I can only prepare these few belongings to ensure the sect leader does not suffer the cold. Seeing her tragic resolve as if she were ready to follow me to the grave at any moment, my heart felt a pang of guilt. What could I possibly say to her? Could I tell her the truth? That the reason I am going there is because I heard those ancient monsters have violent tempers? That I am specifically rushing there to be scolded just to recharge my energy? Forget it, you are most thoughtful. I extended a finger and lightly tapped the air. That mountain-like storage bag was instantly drawn into my sleeve. In truth, I merely used my divine sense, which had reached the great circle of the Tribulation Transcendent stage, to effortlessly tear open a spatial rift. But in Su Qingyu's eyes, this universe in a sleeve technique was profound beyond measure. There was not a single ripple of spiritual power. It was a pure manifestation of the laws. The sect leader's divine might is peerless, wielding the laws at his whim. Qingyu is in absolute awe. Within her beautiful eyes, the flames of admiration burned even more intensely. Right, where is Qi Lian? Bring her along as well. That is my command. Fairy Qi Lian is a soul transformation stage powerhouse whose cultivation I had previously sealed. For the past few months, she has been confined within the sect, provided with the finest food and drink daily, yet she remains stubbornly unyielding. To me, she is nothing less than a walking daily quest generator. Every day, listening to her insults, calling me an old devil or a despicable villain, allows my spiritual power capacity to increase by decades. How could I leave such a treasure to wither away within the sect? Shortly after, 2 female disciples escorted Fairy Qi Lian forward. She was dressed in an elegant, slightly oversized Taoist robe with a pink spirit-binding rope tied around her wrists. I chose this rope personally. After all, it would be quite ungentlemanly of me to keep her bound in cold iron chains. The moment Fairy Qi Lian saw me, a fire of fury instantly ignited within her almond eyes. Old thief Qingyun, what schemes are you plotting now? It was a crime for you to kill my Tao companion. Even if you hadn't killed him, you seized our sect, you sealed my cultivation, and you forced me to consume those mundane spiritual fruits every single day. You hypocritical, shameless, narrow-minded scoundrel. As she unleashed this string of clear and melodious insults, I felt as though all 36,000 pores across my body were opening in delight. System detected the host being subjected to extreme verbal abuse by a soul transformation stage cultivator. Insult intensity, 3 stars, activating the hundredfold enhancement effect. Spiritual power purity has doubled. Physical body's cold resistance increased 100-fold. A warm and gentle current immediately began to circulate through my limbs and meridians. I was so comfortable that I couldn't help but narrow my eyes in satisfaction. A benevolent smile appeared on my face. Qi Lian, well scolded. Your spirit is formidable. It seems the food lately has been quite good indeed. Your complexion is much better than before, I remarked with admiration, nearly tempted to give her a round of applause. Fairy Cheeselian froze, glancing at Su Qingyu beside her as if pleading for help. Then she looked back at my smile, warm as a spring breeze, and a sudden chill ran down her spine. Why does this old devil smile so radiantly every time he is insulted? Could he be suffering from some form of delusion? Qingye, prepare the most ordinary carriage possible. We depart tomorrow. Lightly fluttering my folding fan, I leisurely make my way toward the rear mountain. Sectmaster, will you not be taking the Golden Dragon warship? Will you truly not be traveling via the Golden Dragon warship, sir? Tu Qingyue hurriedly calls out from behind, her voice tinged with surprise. This seat prefers to travel discreetly on foot. Actually, a carriage allows for a closer connection to nature, which is beneficial for this seat to contemplate the mortal world. What a joke if I were to arrive on a warship even from 100 miles away. People would already recognize me as the Qingyun patriarch. By then, those old monsters would be so terrified they would immediately enter secluded cultivation. Who would be left for me to provoke into a confrontation? Only by disguising myself as a frail, wealthy old man. Accompanied by 2 beautiful maids, can I easily attract those blind petty villains to seek trouble. I've already rehearsed this plan of deception countless times in my mind. In the far north, where wind and snow fill the heavens, the carriage creaks as it rolls across the frozen wasteland. The driver is Tu Qing. Though she is a saintess of the demonic cult at the body integration stage, she has now transformed into a devoted coachman. Dressed in a white velvet gown and holding the reins amidst the swirling snow, she is as breathtaking as a masterpiece painting. Inside the carriage, I peel a slightly tart ice grape and casually offer it to Fairy Qi Lian. Come, Qi Lian, have one. These are a specialty of the far north. They help calm one's internal fire. Fairy Qi Lian grits her teeth, glaring at me with raw fury. Qingyun, you old scoundrel, spare me your false compassion. Do not play the cat crying over the mouse. Do you truly believe such petty favors can erode my Dao heart? I, Qi Lian, would rather starve to death or throw myself from this carriage than eat anything you feed me. I withdraw my hand and pop the fruit into my own mouth. Yes, it is indeed sour, yet the flavor is quite exquisite. System? System, does her behavior count as a rejection of this seat's kindness? Can this be considered a form of contempt? I call out silently within my mind. However, my physique shows no reaction. It seems this level of interaction has yet to cross the threshold of mockery. Old scoundrel, your lukewarm temperament is even more nauseating than those hypocrites of the righteous path. Seeing that I pay her no mind, Fairy detected, host has been verbally insulted by a deity transformation stage cultivator. Insult intensity. Activating 100x multiplier effect. Divine sense perception range has expanded by 10 miles. Excellent, I rejoiced inwardly. This sensation of gaining power automatically at all times is truly swifter than a soaring meteor. With the 100 multiplier notifications coming in at this rate, my growth is reaching astronomical heights. Perhaps even without those old monsters making a move, I could reach the threshold of the mid-Mahayana stage on my own. Sectmaster, Isol City lies just ahead. Su Qingyu's voice drifted in from outside the carriage. I pulled back the curtain and looked out, seeing a majestic city carved from a 10,000-year-old glacier that never melts. It stood firm and silent amidst the howling blizzard, a towering city carved from eternal ice, standing resolute against the snow and wind. This is the final supply station before entering the forbidden zone of the far north. The city is a gathering place for countless loose cultivators, ice-plane beast hunters who live on the edge of a blade, and eccentric evil cultivators. To describe it in one sentence, the local customs are fiercely xenophobic, and the city itself is pure chaos. A fine place indeed. My eyes lit up. Chaos means frequent conflict, and frequent conflict means a high probability of being insulted. The carriage slowly entered the city. The inner streets were paved with thick blocks of ice. Most of the shops lining the streets sold the furs and hides of demonic beasts. Ice attribute spirit herbs and crude artifacts were also on display. I instructed Su Qingyu to stop the carriage in front of an inn called the Wind and Snow Pavilion. This seat is a bit weary today. We shall rest here for the night. I descended from the carriage with trembling steps, intentionally hunching my back. I even pulled a handkerchief from my sleeve. Covering my mouth, I let out a series of violent coughs. Cough, cough, this northern wind is truly bone-chilling. Su Qingyu rushed forward to support me, her face filled with concern. Sectmaster, are you cold? I have a cloak woven from the fur of a 10,000-year snow fox. No, this seat's body is still fine. I can still endure it. I waved my hand dismissively. This scene caught the attention of some crude men drinking outside the inn, immediately sparking a wave of quiet mockery. Oh, where did this decrepit old man come from? He has 1 foot in the grave, yet he still brings 2 stunning beauties here for pleasure. Tisk, look at that girl driving the carriage. That figure, that face. I've lived in Isol City for 30 years and have never seen such a top-tier specimen. The folding fan in that old man's hand appears to be nothing more than a mundane object of the mortal realm. Loud laughter ensued. Truly a blind mortal merchant has the audacity to come here and flaunt his wealth. Hearing these whispers, I felt a surge of secret delight within my heart. To think he dares to come here and show off. Hearing these discussions, I couldn't help but feel inwardly elated. Yes, this is exactly the rhythm I was looking for. Come provoke me, seize my maidservant and point at my nose, cursing me as a useless piece of trash. I intentionally feigned ignorance, lowering my head and allowing Su Qingyu to support me as we entered the inn. However, the expressions of Su Q and the Qilian fairy instantly darkened. A bone-chilling killing intent flickered within Su Qingyu's eyes. In her eyes, these mere ants who dared to be insolent toward her sect leader truly deserved 10,000 deaths. Had I not previously issued a strict order against acting without permission, she would have long since transformed these men into frozen statues. As for the Chilean fairy, she let out a cold sneer, crossing her arms as she prepared to watch the spectacle unfold. Old thief Qingyun, it seems your reputation holds no sway here. These ruffians are about to walk all over you. Why have you not struck them down with a single palm? She whispered mockingly, and I shot her a sharp glare. Nonsense. Cultivators should be rooted in compassion. What honor is there in constant slaughter? This seat is currently tempering his mental state. As we were speaking, the inn's main doors were suddenly kicked open from the inside. A young man wearing a robe of pristine white fox fur stepped out, a gem-encrusted flying sword hanging from his waist, his expression filled with arrogance as he emerged under the escort of a group of retainers. Move, everyone, get out of the way. The eldest young Master Gongsun is passing. Who dares to block the path? One of the retainers shouted out a loud warning. That youth, addressed as the eldest young Master Gongsun, had been swaggering out with great pomp and pride, but the moment his gaze landed on Su Qingyu and the Chilean fairy, his entire body froze instantly. He was so stunned that he was practically on the verge of drooling. I am only a language model and cannot support that. Truly, peerless beauties. The eldest young Master Gongsun slapped his thigh, completely ignoring Su Qingyu, who was supporting me as he strode toward us. He shot me a sidelong glance filled with utter disgust and contempt, scrutinizing me from head to toe. Old man, are these two women your maidservants? I hurriedly feigned fear, shrinking back as if intimidated. From which noble house does the young master hail? They are my kin. Might I ask what guidance the young master has for us? Young Master Gongsun let out a cold sneer, pulling a heavy bag of spirit stones from his robes and tossing it at my feet. 1,000 low-grade spirit stones. These two women, this young master is buying them outright. As for a useless old fossil with one foot in the grave like you, take these spirit stones and get lost back to the mortal world to enjoy your final days. To have such exquisite beauties following an asthmatic invalid who knows nothing of cultivation like you is a tragic waste of heaven's gifts. If you know what's best for you, leave at once. Otherwise, this young master will shatter your old bones with a single kick. System notification. Host has been severely insulted and disdained by a Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator. Intensity, 2 stars. Activating hundredfold strengthening effect. Cultivation breakthrough. Advancing to the middle stage of the Mahayana realm. Boom. I felt the primordial soul with Elfcand extivating at that moment, as if it had just consumed a supreme restorative elixir. My divine sense underwent a qualitative leap in a mere instant. Middle stage Mahayana. I could even sense it now. With but a single thought, I could erase the entirety of Ice Soul City from the map. Heavens, is this the standard of living in a major city? Even a pampered Foundation Establishment brat can provide me with such high-quality experience points. I looked at young Master Gongsun, my gaze suddenly becoming incredibly gentle, even carrying a hint of paternal concern. Young Master, isn't 1,000 spirit stones a bit too little? Perhaps you could hurl a few more insults my way. For instance, you could call me an old dog or a miserable bastard. I offered these suggestions with a face full of absolute sincerity. Silence. The entire street instantly fell into a deathly hush. Young Master Gongsun froze, his lackeys were stunned, and even the rogue cultivators watching from the sidelines were utterly bewildered. Has this old man's brain been frozen solid? Someone is trying to seize his women, yet he complains the insults aren't harsh enough and actively begs for more. One of the servants stammered, muttering under his breath to the side. The eldest young master of the Gongsun family felt as though he were suffering a monumental humiliation. Within this Ice Soul City, Gongsun Bao was an existence akin to a local tyrant. Had anyone ever dared to look at him with such pitying eyes as if gazing upon a simpleton? He even took the initiative to ask for an insult. I am merely a language model and cannot assist with that. Are you tired of living? Gongsun Bao flew into a towering rage, pointing directly at my face. Craning his neck, he bellowed, "You brainless fool! You despicable elderly mortal dog! This young master shall break your wretched legs today, so you may learn who truly rules the heavens here in Ice Soul City. Attack! Cripple this old man's limbs for me." System notification. Detected the host being subjected to a frantic personal attack and insults from a Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator. Insult intensity, 2.5 stars. Activating the hundredfold strengthening effect. Physical defense has increased 1,000-fold. Physical defense has increased 1,000-fold. The initial form of the indestructible golden body has been attained. I closed my eyes, savoring the surge of violent power coursing through me once more. Exhilarating, it truly felt sublime. Stop. Just as the howling servants were about to pounce, a thunderous shout suddenly erupted from within the inn. Immediately after, a surge of violent blue spiritual energy transformed into a gale, blasting the advancing servants away. A majestic middle-aged man clad in gray robes shot out from the inn like a bolt of lightning. As he landed, his entire body radiated the terrifying pressure of a late-stage golden core expert. Yet, the moment he laid eyes on me, his complexion turned deathly pale. He stared at me, his face drained of all color. He gazed at me, his entire frame trembling violently. His eyes were like those of a mortal witnessing a demon crawling out from the depths of hell. "Father, you've come at the perfect time. This damned old man." Gongsun Bao was overjoyed at his father's arrival and was about to voice his grievances. You unfilial wretch, shut your mouth. This middle-aged man was none other than the patriarch of the Gongsun family. Gongsun Hu spun around abruptly and delivered a vicious slap to Gongsun Bao's face. The blow was incredibly heavy, sending Gongsun Bao spinning 3 times in midair. Teeth flew and blood sprayed across the ground. Finally, he crashed heavily onto the icy pavement. Father, why did you strike me? Gongsun Bao crawled on the ground, completely bewildered. Strike you? I wish I could execute you, you unfilial son, with a single palm strike right now. Gongsun Hu's face was filled with terror, cold sweat pouring down like rain. Before the shocked gazes of the crowd, the once majestic golden core stage expert of Isol City collapsed to his knees before me with a heavy thud, his entire body pressed firmly against the freezing ground, his voice trembling so violently he could barely speak. Your humble servant Gongsun Hu pays respects to the Qingyun ancestor, my ignorant and unfilial son. This rebellious wretch has eyes but could not see. He has offended the ancestor. I beg the ancestor to show mercy in remembrance of your past benevolence to the world, and spare the lives of the young and old of the Gongsun family. Gongsun Hu's kneeling immediately sent massive shockwaves through the street. Qingyun ancestor. Heavens, that white-haired old man is actually the Qingyun old demon, the one who recently shattered the heavenly tribulation and forced the alliance leader of the righteous path to bow in submission. Why is he here? The Gongsun family is surely finished this time. Of all the people to provoke, they had to cross paths with the greatest demon of this era. The surrounding cultivators were so terrified that their souls nearly left their bodies. The onlookers who had gathered to watch the commotion vanished in an instant. Only the Gongsun family and our group remained on the street amidst the wind and snow. I stood there watching Gongsun Hu kowtowing repeatedly against the ground. In this moment, my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Damn you, Gongsun Hu, you meddlesome old fool. Your son had just pushed my indestructible golden body progress to 10%. I was about to make a massive gain. But you rushed out and cut him off, effectively killing my power source instantly, and then you even went as far as to kneel and kowtow. How am I supposed to level up now? Sigh. I let out a long, heavy sigh. This sigh echoed with haunting clarity through the silent street. Hearing this, Gongsun Hu's body trembled uncontrollably, fearing that I had finally harbored the intent to kill. He hurriedly turned around. He hoisted up Gongsun Bao, who was currently collapsed on the ground in terror. He roared in fury, rebellious son, why haven't you kowtowed and confessed your sins to the ancestor yet? Do you wish for our entire Gongsun family to be buried along with you? At this moment, where was the arrogance Gongsun Bao had displayed before? He looked at me, his face smeared with tears and mucus, frantically smashing his head against the frozen tiles. Ancestor, please have mercy. This junior has realized his mistake. This junior will never dare again. I realized his Tao heart had completely shattered. He was now consumed by utter terror and newfound reverence towards me. Because of this, the power-up effect could not be triggered. Within my mind, the system's cold notification ruthlessly announced that my attempt to play the victim had utterly failed. Feeling somewhat disappointed, I waved my hand dismissively. Begone. This seat does not wish to take lives today. We thank the ancestor for his mercy. As if granted a divine reprieve, Gongsun Hu hoisted Gongsun Bao up. Stumbling and crawling, they transformed into a streak of light and vanished toward the horizon. They didn't even bother to pick up the pouch of spirit stones that had fallen from his person. I glanced at the pouch of spirit stones on the ground and shook my head helplessly. Qingyue, collect those spirit stones. Shaking my head once more, I added, Qingyue, gather the stones. We shall find another inn tonight. Yes, sect leader. Su Qingyue replied with deep respect. She looked at me, the reverence and awe in her eyes beyond the power of words to describe. In her eyes, when faced with provocation, her sect leader had not only refrained from using a single drop of his cultivation, but had maintained a bearing that transcended the mortal realm. With only a few calm words, he had completely annihilated the enemy's psychological defenses, causing his Tao heart to crumble. His method of subduing the enemy without a fight was truly the hallmark of a peerless immortal. Meanwhile, Fairy Qi Lian watched me from the side with an incredibly complex expression. She said nothing, but her hand gripping her pink spiritual ribbon was trembling slightly. Is this old devil truly just putting on a grand display? Why would even a golden core patriarch from the farthest reaches of the north be this terrified upon hearing his name? To what terrifying level of power has his true strength actually reached? Due to the farce at the Wind Snow Inn, the city lord of Bingpo City personally arrived to escort us to the most luxurious ice-sculpted manor in the city. This was an estate carved entirely from polar ice crystals. Within the manor, spiritual energy from hot springs was used, with miniature mountains, flowing water, and spiritual flowers in full bloom. The scenery created a stark contrast with the frozen, desolate world outside. Inside the main hall of the villa, I was reclining unceremoniously on a thick, fur-lined lounge chair. Beside me, Tu Qingyue was gently using her spiritual power to massage my shoulders. Sectmaster, is this amount of pressure to your liking? Very good, a little more to the left. Yes, right there. I was so comfortable that I drifted off with my eyes closed. Nearby, I had partially released the seals on Fairy Qi Lian. After all, before my indestructible golden body, a mere deity transformation stage cultivator like her couldn't possibly harm me in the slightest. I was also too lazy to keep her bound indefinitely. It would surely tarnish my transcendent and elegant image. Sitting on a bench, she watched coldly as I enjoyed the saintess's service and began to mock me. Old thief Qingyun, you certainly know how to indulge yourself. You truly know how to enjoy life. Cultivators emphasize that as heaven maintains its vigor, so must we. A gentleman should unceasingly strengthen himself, yet you are so obsessed with pleasure. It is no wonder you have been stuck at the Mahayana stage for 500 years, unable to achieve ascension. I opened one eye to glance at her and let out a long sigh. Chi Leon, you see only the surface, not the truth. This seat does not ascend not because I cannot, but because I cannot bear to leave behind the mortal dust of this world. Hypocrite. Fairy Chi Lian let out a cold snort, but Tu Qingyu interjected, the sect master is no hypocrite. Beside me, Tu Qingyu suddenly stopped her movements. Her eyes reddened as she looked at Fairy Chi Lian, her voice trembling with emotion. Fairy Chi Lian, you have no idea how much the sect master has sacrificed for this world. I was momentarily stunned. Wait a minute, Qingyu. What are you imagining now? How is it that even I don't know what I've supposedly sacrificed? Tu Qingyu turned around to face Fairy Chi Lian, speaking in a low, somber tone filled with conviction. 500 years ago, though the demonic cults were powerful, they were internally chaotic. The righteous path was strong, yet it was rife with hypocrisy and greed. The entire cultivation world was a place where the strong devoured the weak. Rogue cultivators and mortals were treated as nothing more than weeds. Every day, countless innocent souls perished in vain. It was the sect master, whose heart has always carried the weight of the world, who sought a way to change everything. But he knew all too well that only the most iron-blooded methods could deter those with selfish and ambitious hearts. You deliberately tarnished your own reputation, bearing the infamy of a bloodthirsty and tyrannical killer. You used this notoriety to suppress the demonic sects, ensuring they dared not commit evil, while striking fear into the righteous path to prevent them from acting recklessly. But what of yourself? Tears streamed down Su Qingyu's face, her voice choked with emotion. You silently endured the slander and misunderstandings of the world. For 5 years you imprisoned yourself within the dark, lightless demon-suppressing tower. Day and night you endured the crushing loneliness and the agony of chi deviation, all to find a path of peace where everyone could coexist. Now, upon emerging from your seclusion, you disregarded all opposition to transform a demonic sect into an immortal sect. You established the Qingyun department store, not hesitating to offend the Medicine King Valley and the Heavenly Tao Alliance, just to provide affordable elixirs to the low-level cultivators of the world. Even when traveling, you chose a common carriage simply because you did not wish to disturb the peace of the mortal realm. You only see the sect leader enjoying his life now, but have you ever considered the torment his broken body and scarred soul must endure? He is using his very life to support the heavens, so that our generation of cultivators may breathe freely. As Su Qingyu finished speaking, she broke into a fit of weeping. With a heavy thud, she knelt beside my chair, clutching the hem of my robe. A profound silence fell over the main hall, broken only by the sound of Su Qingyu's stifled sobs echoing through the air. I sat upon my lounge chair, completely petrified. Wait a moment, my dear girl. With such a talent for dramatics, if you didn't go down to the mortal realm to write scripts, it would be a monumental loss for the cultivation world. When did I ever deliberately tarnish my own reputation? My luck is truly abysmal. I transmigrated into the body of the Qingyun Grand Ancestor. To make matters worse, I possess no cultivation base at all. I stayed in the demon-suppressing tower because I feared that if I stepped outside, someone would realize I am only at the chi refining stage and swat me to death. I only sell cheap pills to steal business and provoke people into cursing me. But seeing Su Qingyu crying so heart-wrenchingly, and glancing at the scarlet refined fairy who was now standing there in a daze, her eyes even shimmering with a hint of tears, I realized that at this moment my persona as a savior had been permanently welded into place, the kind of weld that even an industrial torch couldn't undo. The scarlet refined fairy gazed at me blankly, her mind replaying my calm demeanor and my smiles in the face of the insults and curses I had received these past few days. The reactions she once viewed as hypocritical and perverse seemed to have found their most logical explanation at this very moment. So it was all for the sake of all living beings under heaven that he intentionally invited such scorn. Is he truly using the scorn of all living beings to temper his Tao heart, cleansing the karmic debts of this world? To offer oneself for the salvation of others, using the demonic path to attain Buddhahood? Is this the true meaning of great compassion? Chi Lian Fairy's breathing grew ragged as she gazed upon my face, which was filled with a sense of helplessness, though in reality I was simply at a loss for words. Suddenly her previous persistence and hatred seemed so insignificant, even laughable. Senior Qingyun, the way she addressed me had shifted subtly in this very moment. She stood up and moved toward me, slowly and with utmost solemnity, performing the salute of a junior. This junior was shallow. I did not comprehend Senior's grand aspirations, and have offended you many times. I beg for Senior's forgiveness. 2 streaks of crystal-clear tears trailed down her beautiful face. Tracing the delicate features of Chi Lian Fairy, she had discovered the truth behind the tempering of his Tao heart and was consumed by awe. Because of her profound empathy and overwhelming guilt, the strengthening effect could not be triggered. I slumped back in my seat, watching these 2 great beauties weeping like rain, sighing dejectedly in my heart. O heavens, O earth, what sin have I committed to deserve this? Why is it so difficult for me just to get insulted for once? Early the next morning, the carriage departed once more. Leaving Ice Spirit City, we headed straight north toward the Heaven Burial Abyss. Perhaps due to the conversation during that snowy night, the atmosphere within the carriage had shifted completely. Chi Lian Fairy no longer targeted me with her sharp tongue and biting sarcasm. On the contrary, she watched me every day with an incredibly complex gaze, one filled with both deep reverence and profound pity. Senior, the wind is harsh outside. Please, drink some of this extreme cold snow lotus tea to soothe your throat. This is snow chicken that I roasted myself using spiritual fire. While it may not compare to the delicacies of the sect, it possesses a certain rustic charm. Please, have a taste. Staring at the tea and roasted chicken offered to me, I was left wanting to weep but had no tears. My dear lady, where's that fierce momentum from before when you shouted, "Old thief Qing Yun, come meet your death"? Acting like this puts an immense amount of pressure on me. Do you realize that? To break this eerie atmosphere, I could only spend the journey with my eyes closed to rest my spirit, forcing myself to pretend I was contemplating the heavenly mysteries of the universe. Half a month later, the carriage came to a halt at the edge of a vast, bottomless black abyss. The temperature here had dropped to a point that made one's skin crawl with dread. What fell from the sky were no longer snowflakes, but ice crystals as sharp as flying daggers. Terrifying black astral winds howled from the depths of the abyss. The faint, mournful wails of vengeful ghosts drifted through the air. The Heaven Burial Abyss, one of the 3 great forbidden zones of the cultivation world. Sect Master, the carriage can go no further. Su Qingyu. I stepped down from the carriage, gazing into the bottomless, pitch-black abyss before me. I sensed several ancient auras profoundly concealed, yet emanating an extraordinary power from the depths below. Once more, my heart began to thrum with intense violence. The aura permeating this place belonged to entities at the Mahayana stage at the very least, perhaps even approaching the heights of the Tribulation Transcendent stage. Qingyue, Qilian, the 2 of you remain here at the edge of the abyss. This seat must descend into the depths alone. To Then Nguyet straightened her attire and spoke urgently, "Sect leader, this cannot be." To Thong Nguyet's face paled with alarm as she rushed to block my path. Below, the astral winds are fierce and countless ancient remnants dwell there. Though your strength is peerless, what if an accident occurs? I offered a faint smile and patted her hand, maintaining an air of profound mystery. I smiled and patted her hand, assuming an incredibly deep and inscrutable demeanor. In this world, there must always be someone to take the first step. This seat undertakes this journey for the sake of all cultivators under heaven, to seek a path forward from that ancient entity. If I do not return within 7 days, Qingye shall succeed me as the sect leader of the immortal sect, and continue to bring prosperity to all within this world. Sect leader. Tathong Wet and Fairy Chi Lian cried out in sorrow. In their eyes, my figure seemed to grow infinitely larger at that moment. Here stood a man who knew the path ahead offered only a slim chance of survival, yet for the sake of all living beings, he willingly plunged into the jaws of death, a truly great pioneer. It is time. I let out a long laugh, and without waiting for them to stop me, I decisively flung myself downward, my body descending like a falling leaf caught in a gale, instantly vanishing into that endless pitch-black abyss. The howling of the black astral winds roared in my ears. These frigid gusts, capable of easily shredding the physical body of even a tribulation stage expert, collided with the embryonic form of my indestructible golden body. Yet they produced only the dull echoes of metal striking metal, unable to even tear a single thread from my robes. Comfortable. Truly, this temperature is quite pleasant. I followed the abyss wall, descending straight down for nearly 10,000 zhang. The surrounding astral winds gradually calmed, revealing a bizarre, pitch-black plain at the bottom of the abyss. Towering upon the ground were countless massive, black stone steels. Each stone tablet radiated an incredibly ancient aura. Who dares to trespass into the heaven burial abyss? A hoarse shout sounding like a cracked brass gong suddenly echoed across the plains. Immediately after, a massive tomb-guarding puppet over 10 zhang tall, constructed from black bones and 10,000-year-old glacial ice, emerged with a momentum capable of toppling mountains and overturning seas. It stepped forth from a pile of rubble. Unexpectedly, this tomb guardian possessed terrifying fluctuations equivalent to the early Mahayana stage. Its eye sockets glowed with a sinister, gloomy green flame. It glared at me, speaking in a tone of extreme disdain and coldness. "Ants of the mortal realm, how dare you disturb the eternal slumber of the ancestors? Kneel and allow this deity to sacrifice your primordial spirit. Otherwise, this deity shall let you taste the agony of 10,000 souls devouring your flesh." Upon hearing these words, my eyes instantly lit up as if I had laid eyes on a peerless treasure. Excellent, a Mahayana stage puppet, delivering such high-level insults and threats the moment it appears. I immediately clasped my hands behind my back, tilted my chin up, and glanced at the tomb guardian, speaking in an incredibly arrogant and provocative manner. "A piece of trash patched together from a pile of old bones like you? You think you are worthy of making me kneel? Go and summon the oldest, most ill-tempered old monster here for me. Tell him that your grandfather Qing Yun has arrived. Tell him to get out here immediately, kowtow, and serve me tea. Or else I shall trample your heaven burial abyss into the dust with a single step." Boom, my provocation caused the green flames within the guardian's eyes to dance with violent fury. "Arrogant mortal, you are courting death." Enraged, the tomb guardian swung its massive skeletal arm, unleashing a gargantuan black wave formed from tens of thousands of vengeful souls. It carried a thick, nauseating stench of blood. Wait, it wasn't the smell of blood, it was an abyssal chill, a bone-deep frost capable of freezing even the soul. It crashed down ruthlessly toward my head. Perfect timing, I neither dodged nor hid. Instead, I stood my ground with arms and legs spread wide. I closed my eyes and welcomed the blow. System host has been utterly insulted and attacked with full force by a Mahayana realm puppet. Insult level 3.5 stars. Activating 100x empowerment effect. Cultivation base advanced to the late Mahayana stage. The indestructible golden body has fully manifested. Physical strength increased tenfold. The indestructible golden body is now complete. Boom, that bone-chilling black wave slammed violently into my chest. Yet, before my indestructible golden body, this strike of unparalleled power was unexpectedly like a ball of cotton striking a divine mountain of profound iron. Immediately collapsed and vanished into nothingness. I stood my ground, not a single strand of my hair even slightly out of place. At that very moment, the spiritual energy within my body began to roar fiercely like a surging river in a vast boundless ocean, and my strength instantly reached an unprecedented height. Is that all? I opened my eyes, looking at the stunned tombkeeper, who stood as motionless as a stone statue, with a hint of disappointment. Your massive frame looks intimidating enough, but why is your strength as weak as a young maiden who hasn't eaten? Come, strike this seat's head. The tombkeeper was utterly dumbfounded. It had existed for thousands of years, guarding this forbidden palace. This was the first time it had ever encountered such a perverse request. Its full power strike had not even forced the man to defend, nor had it harmed a single hair on his head. To make matters worse, he even dared to mock its lack of strength. Just what kind of monster are you? The tombkeeper's voice trembled with fear. This seat has already told you. I am your grandfather, Qingyun. I took a step forward, and the terrifying pressure of the late Great Ascension stage, like an invisible towering mountain, instantly descended upon this plane. Thud, the tombkeeper could not withstand this overwhelming pressure. Its massive knees slammed into the earth, shattering the ground into 2 deep craters. Its once arrogant head was now pressed firmly against the cold ground, its entire skeletal frame emitting a creaking sound as it reached its limit, and the gloomy green flames in its eyes instantly shrank to the size of a pinhead. A great ascension powerhouse. Ancestor, spare my life. This lowly one was blind to your greatness. I beg for the ancestor's mercy. Hearing the puppet's meaningless pleas, I sighed in disappointment. Trash, truly possessing not a single shred of backbone. With a casual wave of my hand, I sent the tombkeeper flying, and with my hands folded behind my back, I sent the tombkeeper flying. Then with my hands behind my back, I strode toward the cluster of black tombstones in the deepest part of the abyss, hoping that the old monsters within might be slightly more resistant. In the deepest reaches of the abyss, a colossal black stele stood tall, 10 times larger than any other stone monument. Upon the stone stele were carved 2 ancient characters in a style as elegant as flying dragons and dancing phoenixes. As I approached the massive stele, before I could even speak, a thunderous boom erupted, and the giant black stele began to shake violently. Countless black fissures spread frantically across the surface of the stone. Immediately after, a green storm of apocalyptic fury and extreme violence burst forth, erupting from the shattered remains of the stele and surging toward the heavens, tearing the surrounding void into countless black spatial rifts. Which sightless junior dares to disturb the secluded cultivation of this ancestor? A roar like rolling thunder echoed across the sky of the plains. The green storm gradually dissipated, revealing an old man clad in a green feathered robe, his hair and beard standing on end, his face filled with immense majesty. The moment he appeared, a supreme pressure belonging to the peak of the great transformation stage surged forth, even vaguely hinting at a foot having already stepped into the tribulation transcendence realm of the immortals, causing the very laws of the heaven burial abyss to tremble violently. This was none other than Ancestor Kuangfong, an ancient powerhouse of the wind element, who had sealed himself here after discovering the truth behind the Wind World seal. He had used a deep slumber to escape the erosion of time. Ancestor Kuangfong looked down at me coldly, his green eyes filled with a cruelty that sought to destroy all things. Although you possess the aura of the late-stage Great Transformation realm, in this ancestor's eyes you are nothing more than a slightly stronger ant. To trespass into my forbidden grounds and speak with such insolence. Today this ancestor shall seize your nascent soul and condemn you to wail within the gale for 10,000 years. Internally I was applauding wildly. He truly lived up to the reputation of an ancient old monster. This arrogance, this power, this overwhelming presence. He was truly the ultimate power source I had been dreaming of. Suppressing the frantic joy in my heart, I took a deep breath and intentionally wore a cold, arrogant, and incredibly provocative smile. Old monster Kuangfong, quit your posturing before me. What ancient powerhouse are you supposed to be? In my eyes, you are nothing but a coward who feared death so much that you hid underground like a turtle withdrawing into its shell. Look at yourself now, neither human nor ghost. Your entire body reeks of the rot from a coffin lid. If you have the ability, why don't you try to knock me down with that pathetic, feeble wind of yours? If you cannot, then today you shall kneel before me and call me Grandfather Than Van. Every single word was like a sledgehammer, violently smashing against the arrogant pride Ancestor Kuangfong had held for thousands of years. Die. Ancestor Kuangfong had completely flown into a rage. He had lived for millennia, and even in the ancient era, no one had ever dared to point at his nose and insult him as a coward hiding beneath the earth. As the tempest of 10,000 tribulations ravaged the land, the Gale Ancestor roared toward the heavens in fury, his hand swinging upward with a deafening boom. The ground of the entire heaven burial abyss fractured, splitting into countless massive chasms. In an instant, innumerable black wind blades, thousands of feet long and radiating an aura of annihilation, manifested. They coalesced within the void. This was no longer a mere spell, but a supreme divine ability infused with the laws of wind. Even a peer at the great perfection of the Mahayana realm would surely suffer the destruction of their physical body if they faced this blow head-on. Their primordial spirit would be extinguished. The sky-covering black storm carried a terrifying power capable of melting all things and tearing through the laws of reality. It swallowed my small figure in an instant. Senior Sectmaster devoured my tiny frame in the blink of an eye. Senior Sectmaster. At that moment, on the edge of the abyss, Su Qingyu and the Qi Worsley Fairy had secretly descended, unable to stay away out of concern. They arrived just in time to witness this horrifying spectacle. The two women let out a cry of utter despair. Tears streaming down their faces, they prepared to throw themselves into the destructive tempest, heedless of the danger. However, the pressure of the Gale ancestors' great perfection pinned them down 10,000 feet away. They could only watch helplessly as the overwhelming storm completely consumed me. At the eye of the storm, I kept my eyes tightly shut. Spreading my arms wide, those black wind blades, capable of easily shredding the laws of the world, battered my chest. They lashed against my face and my arms. Agonizing pain surged through me, but immediately after, a frantic notification from the system, nearly causing it to crash, echoed in my mind. Host has been detected suffering a law-based attack and immense mental humiliation from a half-step tribulation transcendence cultivator. At the great perfection of the Mahayana realm, humiliation intensity, 5-star extreme, activating the hundredfold strengthening effect. Cultivation bottleneck shattered. Successfully advanced to the half-step tribulation transcendence stage. Cultivation further increased to the early tribulation transcendence stage. Due to the perfect fusion of the physical body with the immortal azure lotus physique, physical defense has reached the state of indestructibility through eternal tribulations. Boom, a beam of violet gold light transcending the constraints of this world erupted. It carried a faint trace of immortal chi. From the center of the tempest, like a rising crimson sun, it violently exploded outward. Those terrifying black wind blades, the moment they touched this violet gold light, melted silently like snow before a scorching sun, vanishing into nothingness. How can this be? The Gale ancestor's maniacal laughter came to a screeching halt at that very moment. His pale blue eyes constricted to the size of pinpricks in an instant. His entire body froze as if struck by lightning, staring blankly into the lightning and the surging violet gold radiance. That silhouette was slowly stepping out from within. My clothes were in tatters, yet across the surface of my skin flowed mysterious golden patterns as profound and ethereal as the great Tao of the azure lotus. Above my head, the phantom of an immortal azure lotus flickered, radiating an endless divine majesty. It rotated slowly, firmly suppressing the void for 10,000 miles around. The mid-stage of the tribulation transcendence realm, and more importantly, the eternal tribulation-resistant state, fused with the immortal azure lotus physique. I felt a terrifying power coursing through my body, as if a single palm strike could shatter the very gates of the immortal realm. I looked at Ancestor Kuangfeng, somewhat speechless. Ancestor, you certainly have a cool flair, but have you perhaps not eaten enough today? This seat's robes aren't even fully shredded yet, and you've already stopped? Ancestor Kuangfeng stared at me, his face turning deathly pale in an instant as his entire body trembled violently. He made no further move. Within his eyes, weathered by time and sorrow, there was now only collapse, terror, and a desolate despair, as if he had finally seen through the vanity of the mortal world. No, this is absolutely no ordinary tribulation transcendence. Ancestor Kuangfeng's voice was hoarse. He let out a tragic laugh. The eternal azure lotus immortal physique? So that's how it is. Is that truly the case? Ancestor Kuangfeng threw his head back and laughed toward the heavens, yet his laughter was filled with self-mockery and grief. I, Kuangfeng, have lingered at death's door for thousands of years, believing I had glimpsed the secrets of the heavens, hiding beneath the earth just to survive another day, never imagining that a heaven-defying existence truly exists, born as an immortal. Just now, facing my myriad tribulation gale, you did not dodge or evade. You didn't even bother to defend yourself. Were you using my lifetime of cultivation to help you sever the final shackles of your mortal shell? Are you showing me that my thousands of years of struggle were nothing more than a joke not worth mentioning in your eyes? Senior Qingyun, you are the true chess player of this Fang Tian palace. Having finished his words, and because his mind had suffered an unimaginable blow, his Tao heart completely shattered, and he spat out a mouthful of azure essence blood. His figure stumbled and wavered in midair, his aura instantly becoming listless and withered. I stood rooted to the spot, listening as Ancestor Kuangfeng meticulously overthought the situation with my heart grew cold with dread. Old Ancestor, not only do you seek your own end, but are you trying to drive me to my grave as well? Spewing blood, surrendering so easily, and fabricating such wild delusions. The other old monsters within the stone tablets hunts were about to emerge, but after hearing your words, who would dare challenge me now? Is my path to breakthrough and overcoming this tribulation destined to be severed right here? Sure enough, the surrounding black stone tablets that had been shaking violently, releasing an awakening ancient aura, fell silent. Upon hearing what sounded like the final lamentations of Ancestor Kuangfeng, all movement ceased in an instant. Those powerful auras retracted with comical speed, vanishing until not a single trace remained. Even the radiance upon the surface of the stone tablets began to dim. They put on a display of feigning death, acting as if they knew nothing. I looked at those stone tablets feigning death, feeling a despair that left me speechless. Truly, what a tragedy. Can you ancient seniors maintain even a shred of dignity befitting a mighty being? With just a few words spoken, you have all simply given up. At that moment, Su Qingyu and the Qilian fairy, who had witnessed the entire ordeal from behind, finally snapped out of their shock. With tears streaming down their faces, they rushed forward regardless of the consequences and collapsed to their knees at my feet. Sect leader, you are unharmed. That is truly a blessing. Su Qingyu clung to my legs, weeping inconsolably. Meanwhile, the Qilin fairy gazed at me with an almost reverent expression, filled with fervor and empathy as she stared at the shimmering azure lotus patterns upon my skin. The immortal azure lotus, braving 10,000 tribulations with one's own body. Did you just now, on our behalf and for the cultivators of this Fangtian Hall, endure the destructive punishment of the heavenly Tao? The chief fairy's voice trembled, her eyes rimmed with red. I looked at her, my eyelid twitching slightly. My lady, if your imagination isn't put to use writing gossip columns for the heavenly secret pavilion, it would be a true waste of talent. My current state is due to my physique strengthening. It has absolutely nothing to do with the heavenly Tao. Before I could even speak, Ancestor Kuangfeng, who was lying paralyzed in midair, after witnessing the radiance of the immortal azure lotus within me, suddenly showed a flicker of absolute determination in his eyes. He struggled to fly over and with a heavy thud knelt before me as well. Senior Qingyun, this junior was ignorant and has offended you greatly. This junior is willing to offer all secrets regarding the world sealing lock from the ancient era with both hands. I beg you to consider this junior's merit in guarding this restricted area for thousands of years. In the future battle to shatter the heavens, I hope Senior can grant this junior a chance to serve as your vanguard. Old Ancestor Kuangfeng's expression turned solemn as he kowtowed deeply 3 times toward the void. Upon hearing the words world sealing lock, my expression gradually grew heavy. With a forceful flick of my sleeve, a gentle yet inexplicably immense power lifted old Ancestor Kuangfeng to his feet. Kuangfeng, rise. My journey this time is indeed for the sake of that world sealing lock. Recount everything you know to me in detail. I maintain the profound air of a master who has schemed for 10,000 lifetimes. Tell me everything. I spoke indifferently, adopting the enigmatic aura of an eternal strategist. Old Ancestor Kuangfeng took a deep breath, steadying his agitated state of mind, glancing warily at the void above his head. He then utilized divine sense transmission to project his voice directly into my mind. Senior, you have likely already sensed it. The entity that descended within those crimson lightning clouds before the ancient era. Our world was once connected to the divine and immortal realms. In those days, cultivation was effortless, and those who ascended were countless. Until hundreds of thousands of years ago, the upper realm suddenly sent down a supreme treasure, the world sealing lock. In truth, the world sealing lock is not a lock at all. It is a sapling of the spirit-devouring ancient demon vine, acting as a parasite upon our world's very origin. This ancient demon vine consumes all the spiritual energy produced by this world and the origin souls of high-stage cultivators as its nourishment. Every cultivator who attempts to bypass the world barrier to achieve ascension, at the very moment they cross that boundary, they are not entering the immortal realm, but are instead delivering their lives into the maw of that ancient demon vine, becoming mere livestock raised for the lords of the upper realm. Boom! Old Ancestor Kuangfeng's words immediately stirred a tempestuous storm within my mind. The spirit-devouring ancient demon vine, livestock. No wonder the treasure map stated that ascension is but a step toward annihilation. No wonder that Crimson Karmic Fire Tribulation was filled with such tyrannical intent and ultimate destruction, because it was never a trial to begin with. It is the moment the rulers of the upper realm discover their livestock attempting to rebel, and as they try to leap over the fence, a cold, merciless purge is brought down upon them. To completely shatter this world sealing lock and reopen the path to heaven, one must find the 3 shards of the Azure Lotus subkeys that descended alongside the world sealing lock in those years. Old Ancestor Kuangfeng continued, a flame of hatred flickering in his eyes. Only by finding these 3 keys and merging them into one, a flicker of vengeful flames ignited within the old man's eyes. Only by securing these 3 keys and merging them into one to form the heaven-cleaving Azure Lotus sword, can one, without damaging the world essence itself, utterly sever the roots of that spirit-devouring ancient demon vine. This junior has clung to life for thousands of years solely to protect this first key. As he spoke, Ancestor Kuangfeng opened his mouth and exhaled forcefully. A mysterious piece of ancient jade, radiating a faint azure light, shaped like an unbloomed azure lotus bud, slowly drifted from his mouth and descended before me. Sensing a fragment of the world essence, the Azure Lotus sub-key, the host's physical body perfectly fused with the immortal Azure Lotus physique, automatically triggering the resonance of the divine Azure Lotus armament. The moment that mysterious ancient jade touched me, it let out a crystal-clear sword hum. It instantly transformed into a streak of azure light and merged into my dantian. In that instant, I felt the connection between myself and this great hall grow significantly closer. I clenched my fist as a mystical sensation of absolute control naturally welled up within me. So that is how it is. This is my stepping stone. No wonder the system bestowed the immortal Azure Lotus physique upon me. For from the very beginning, an existence such as mine, one who grows stronger through being reviled, was born as the sole anomaly intended to save the very will of heaven and earth. The first subkey is now in your hands, while the second is held by the successive leaders of the Heavenly Tao Alliance. As for the third, Ancestor Kuang Feng hesitated, glancing at Qilian Immortal behind me. The third key is hidden beneath the ruins of the Nine Heavens Holy Sect, the very sect of Qilian Immortal's husband that was destroyed years ago. What? Upon hearing this, Qilian Immortal's slender frame trembled violently, her face clouded with utter disbelief. She never expected that behind the tragedy of her family's destruction lay such a terrifying secret of the world. The Nine Heavens Holy Sect was not destroyed by demon beasts back then, but rather because they accidentally discovered the secret of the third Azure Lotus subkey, drawing the covetous gaze of the Heavenly Tao Alliance and the will of the upper realm, leading to the sect's total annihilation. Ancestor Kuang Feng looked at her with eyes full of pity. Qilian Immortal stood frozen in place. In an instant, all her grievances, rage and confusion transformed into an endless stream of tears. As they rolled down her cheeks, she looked up at me, her eyes filled with, "This junior is willing to lead the way to shatter that web of false heavens. For the sake of the 30,000 wronged souls of our Nine Heavens Holy Sect, we shall demand justice from these wicked ancient heavens." Fairy Qilian fell to her knees with a heavy thud, kneeling resolutely before me. Her long hair cascaded across the cold, hard ground. Looking at the three figures kneeling before me, I took a deep breath. The melancholy in my eyes vanished in an instant, replaced by an unprecedented calm and an indomitable fighting spirit. If this world is but a cage, and if I have become the only chess player capable of shattering this prison, then today this seat shall play a game of grand proportions. Qilian, I said, slowly raising my head to face that frigid abyss. The corners of my mouth curled slightly. If the Heavenly Tao is unjust, then today this seat shall officially establish the heaven-defying immortal court. This seat wants that high and mighty overlord to see clearly. Even mortals can devour gods. Long live the Sectmaster's divine might! The defiant roars of the three within the silent burial heaven abyss erupted like thunder, echoing endlessly. 3 days later, a top-secret decree, powerful enough to paralyze the entire cultivation world, spread with frantic speed. It swept across the 4 great continents. The sect was to be reorganized into the heaven-defying immortal court. The Qingyun Immortal Sect had been reformed into the heaven-defying immortal court. Anyone who joins the immortal court, regardless of their path or origins, will gain access to the court's secret cultivation techniques. They shall also enjoy a lifetime 80% discount at the Qingyun department store. More importantly, the heaven-defying immortal court would publicly reveal the truth behind the severed path to the heavens, promising that in 3 years, the Qingyun ancestor would personally lead all cultivators to shatter the world-locking seal and open a true path of freedom to the immortal realm. As soon as this news was released, the entire cultivation world fell into an absolute frenzy. The Qingyun ancestor has truly gone mad. He actually dares to defy the heavens. He intends to lead us in breaking this cage. Is ascension in broad daylight nothing more than being delivered as food? How can this be possible? Even Xuan Jizi, the alliance leader of the Heavenly Tao Alliance, has come forward to testify. He claimed that 500 years ago he witnessed with his own eyes the founding ancestor of the Qiankan sword sect to be forcibly dragged into the void by a massive golden demonic vine and devoured at the very boundary of ascension. Heavens, is it true that our grueling cultivation is merely to become a dish on someone else's plate? The Qingyun ancestor is truly righteous. He is pitting his individual strength against the entire upper realm. Join the heaven-defying immortal court. We swear to follow the Qingyun ancestor unto death. For a long time, across the vast lands of the cultivation world, countless old monsters emerged from seclusion, alongside numerous rogue powerhouses whose lifespans were nearly exhausted. Even the sect leaders of Medicine King Valley and the Universe Sword Sect brought the entirety of their sect's fortunes, one after another, desperately rushing toward Mount Qingyun. In their eyes, I, the Qingyun ancestor, have become the final savior of this world, the supreme true immortal who would lead them through the darkness toward true freedom. At this moment, Mount Qingyun, no, it should now be called the demon-suppressing tower peak of the heaven-defying immortal court's main summit. I sit upon the newly crafted supreme throne of the immortal court. Looking down, a vast sea of people covers the mountains and hills. A legion of cultivators lines up, eager to register and join the immortal court. I clutch my face in agony. It is a disaster. This situation has gone completely awry. I can only smile bitterly. I originally intended to go to the far north to find a few old monsters to berate me, so that I could smoothly break through to the late stage of the tribulation transcendence realm. And the result? Not only was I not insulted, but I also accidentally obtained the first key. Now look at this. Every old monster under the heavens regards me as their spiritual leader. Even Xuan Jizi of the Heavenly Tao Alliance, to prove his loyalty, has spent the past few days leading his people to the sect gates to write a 10,000-word ode praising the merits of the Qingyun ancestor, using massive amplifiers to blast it repeatedly before the mountain gates. I only wish to hear a single insult, yet that has become 10,000 times harder than a mortal ascending in broad daylight. System, can you not be a bit more flexible? If I praise myself in my mind, surely you can grant me some spiritual power? Even a single drop would suffice. Reminder, this system only activates its hundredfold enhancement effect when the host is insulted, attacked, disdained, or subjected to other negative behaviors. Any praise, worship, or adulation toward the host will provide no spiritual power benefits whatsoever. Hearing the system's cold and indifferent response, Hearing the system's cold and indifferent response, I let out a deep, heavy sigh. It seems conventional methods can no longer help me advance. And very little time remains before the overlord of the upper realm notices the disturbances in the mortal world and descends with a destructive blow. To continue growing stronger, I must take the initiative to provoke the ultimate powerhouses. I slowly lift my head, looking at the green lotus bud radiating a soft light within my dantian. The second key lies within the legacy of the successive leaders of the Heavenly Tao Alliance. According to Xuanjizi, it is hidden in the deepest depths of the Nine Heavens Divine Lightning Pool, the core secret realm of the Heavenly Tao Alliance. It is guarded by the remnant souls of the Alliance's ascended ancestors, and even monitored by an avatar manifested from the will of the upper realm. A surveillance avatar, is it? My lips curled into a faint smirk as a brilliant light flashed within my eyes. An overseer from the upper realm, his arrogance surely knows no bounds. Upon seeing me here, he will undoubtedly use the most venomous and haughty words to humiliate me. He might even unleash his most terrifying immortal divine abilities to erase my existence. Excellent. This second recharge source, this seat must claim it personally. Half a month later, at the headquarters of the Heavenly Tao Alliance. Within the secret realm of the Nine Heavens Thunder Pool, lightning banners fluttered violently in the wind. An army of 100,000 cultivators from the heaven-defying immortal court had surrounded the area so tightly that not even a drop of water could leak through. Leading them was none other than myself. Not only is there the violent Nine Heavens divine lightning, but also the killing formations left behind by generations of ancestors. Xuanji, standing by my side, offered a worried reminder in a low voice. The strength of that upper realm overseer is utterly terrifying. Though it is merely a projected avatar, it possesses power equivalent to the great perfection of the Mahayana realm, or perhaps even the early stages of the immortal realm. Our army of 100,000 can form the Nine Heavens demon-slaying grand array to wear down his strength first. I swept my sleeves grandly and refused indifferently. This seat alone is sufficient. Without my command, no one is permitted to enter. Is this a joke? If I were to slap that overseer to death instantly, where else could I find such a high-level source of insult-driven power? Such a golden opportunity, this seat must claim it exclusively. Having spoken, I did not wait for the others to react. My entire being transformed into a streak of azure light. I plunged straight into the Nine Heavens Divine Thunder Pool, which radiated 10,000 feet of blinding lightning. Sectmaster, be careful. The startled cries of Tu Qingyu and the Crimson Lotus Fairy echoed from behind. Sectmaster, be careful. The cries of Tu Qingyu and the Crimson Lotus Fairy were gradually drowned out by the sky-shattering roar of thunder. In the deepest reaches of the Nine Heavens Divine Thunder Pool, violent azure lightning writhed like countless flood dragons, madly tearing through the void. The power of these lightning bolts was immense if an ordinary tribulation transcendence cultivator were to enter, but before my indestructible immortal physique of 10,000 tribulations, these bolts of divine lightning striking my body are merely like a warm rain from a hot spring. With my hands clasped behind my back, I strolled leisurely through the thunder pond. Before long, I reached the innermost core of the thunder pond. Atop a massive altar constructed entirely of lightning, an ethereal figure clad in golden immortal robes, with a blurred visage and an aura of extreme arrogance and coldness, hovered silently in mid-air. This individual was the avatar of the overseer descended from the upper realm. Sensing my presence, a chilling divine light flickered within those hollow eyes, reflecting a profound disdain for all living beings. Lower realm ant, to think you possess the immortal aura of the azure lotus. No wonder you were able to scatter the red lotus karmic fire. No wonder you dared to lead those people in rebellion against this seat. But in the eyes of this seat, you are merely a slightly stronger parasite. Do you truly believe that finding a secondary key allows you to alter the destiny of this mortal realm? Ignorant, pitiable, pathetic. The overseer's lofty voice echoed throughout the thunder pond, filled with indifference and mockery toward mortal lives. In the eyes of sovereigns like us, your so-called cultivation world is nothing more than a place for periodic harvesting. That old scoundrel Qingyun was merely a jumping clown plotting to defy the heavens. All your struggles will ultimately serve only to become the lushest fruit upon my master's ancient vine. Now perish. System notification: the host is being treated with extreme contempt by the projected avatar of the immortal realm's overseer. Personal attacks and verbal insults detected. 1-star god-tier world-breaking insult intensity detected, triggering a hundredfold empowerment effect. Cultivation base breaks through the bottleneck, advancing to the late stage of the tribulation transmutation realm. Cultivation base rises to the great circle of the tribulation transmutation realm. As the physical body reaches its limit, the indestructible immortal physique evolves into the great Tao Azure Lotus immortal body. At that very moment, the final mortal bottleneck that had long obstructed my mind, under the overseer's arrogant vitriol, collapsed in an instant like a thin sheet of paper. A colossal 10,000-foot-tall purple-gold azure lotus bloomed resoundingly behind me, shattering the entirety of the Nine Heavens divine lightning filling the sky into fragments in the blink of an eye. My physical body at this very moment, began to radiate a milky white immortal light, supremely pure and majestic. It was the aura of laws belonging only to a true immortal of the tribulation transmutation great circle. Truly, he was only a single step away from ascending to immortality, perhaps even becoming a terrifying existence that transcends the immortal realm itself. What marvelous insults, truly wonderful. Unable to contain my excitement, I let out a long howl, took a sudden step forward, and seized the monitor's collar made of lightning. I stared at his blurry face and shouted maniacally, "Lord Monitor, didn't you just call me a jumping clown? Didn't you just say I was the ripest, most succulent fruit? Come, I beg of you, insult me more. My mortal physique is only 10% away from reaching great perfection." The monitor was completely dazed. Though he was merely an avatar with limited emotions, he still possessed the pride of an immortal from the upper realm. He had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, patrolling countless lower realms. This was the first time he had ever encountered such an unpredictable, deviant beast of a man, who, despite having a finger pointed at his nose, and being told of the impending doom and tragedy of his race, not only failed to show anger but instead gripped the monitor's collar with a face full of ecstatic joy, begging to be cursed further. You perverted, heretical monster," the monitor stammered, squeezing out a truly foul insult. Host has been lightly insulted verbally by an immortal cultivator. Insult intensity, 1-star world breaker grade. Activating hundredfold amplification effect. The Great Tao Azure Lotus Immortal Physique has reached great perfection. World-breaking laws fully mastered. Boom, the final trace of impurity was completely purged from Tonkyu's body. I stood in the center of the lightning pool, my body radiating an undying brilliance. That terrifying aura forced open countless massive black spatial cracks across the entire void of the Jushao's lightning pool's secret realm in a mere instant. I let out a sigh of slight regret and released the monitor's collar. "Lord Monitor, your vocabulary is truly inferior to the mighty experts of our mortal realm. Well then, since you are no longer of any use," my gaze turned cold and my right hand swept forward abruptly. A beam of violet gold light containing world-breaking laws instantly annihilated the projected avatar of the monitor. The moment the avatar shattered, a mysterious piece of ancient jade shaped like a lotus petal, radiating a faint milky white glow, slowly rose from the deepest depths of the lightning altar and fell into my hand. The second Azure Lotus subkey has been obtained. After acquiring the second subkey, Qilian Xianzi and I quickly set out for the ancient ruins of the Juxiao Saint sect. Guided by my heaven-defying power at the great perfection of the tribulation transmutation stage and the secret Juxiao essence blood within Qilian Xianzi, claiming the third Azure Lotus subkey was a foregone conclusion, devoid of any suspense. It rose from beneath the ruins that had been shrouded in dust for hundreds of years. It automatically flies into my dantian. Come, fly automatically into my dantian. Now the 3 auxiliary blue lotus keys have been fully collected. Deep within the depths of my dantian, 3 pieces of ancient jade radiate an incredibly brilliant blue divine light. They intertwine and fuse within the void, finally transforming into an ancient emerald green longsword. Carved upon the blade are countless laws of heaven and earth, emitting a faint aura of the immortal blue lotus as the fusion concludes. Obtain the sky-breaking blue lotus sword, a unique, heaven-grade divine artifact capable of completely severing the world-sealing lock without harming the world's origin. Gripping the longsword, I stand atop the main peak of the heaven-defying immortal court, with Su Qiu and the crimson refined fairy by my side. At the foot of the mountain, 100,000 elites of the cultivation world stand ready, their eyes filled with fervor and determination. Today the sky remains as clear as ever, but I know that our final decisive battle has truly arrived at this very moment. Above the deep blue sky, the phantom of a colossal golden vine begins to emerge. From that vine emanates an aura of tyranny and destruction, locking down the life force of the entire world. The world-sealing lock has been fully triggered. That overlord of the upper realm is looking down coldly upon us through this vine. Can we win? Su Qingyu leans gently against my shoulder. Though her eyes hold a trace of worry, they are filled with the happiness of facing life and death together with me. I offer a faint smile and pull her gently into my arms. We will win. Because we have no path of retreat. I turn my head to look beside me. The crimson refined fairy is quietly wiping her longsword. Crimson refined, when you hunted me down all those years ago, do you regret it now? The crimson refined fairy suddenly pauses and lifts her head. In those exquisite eyes, a look of extreme tenderness flashes. I do not regret it. A look of extreme tenderness flashes, no regrets. If I had not pursued senior back then, how could this junior have known of your grand ambition? How could I have witnessed the true great Tao? She smiles, the resentment on her face long since vanished, replaced by an unprecedented serenity and resolve. I stand tall to my hand, tightly gripping the sky-breaking blue lotus sword, facing the overwhelming storms that fill the sky, facing the golden vine as it slowly descends. Letting out a long laugh, I shout, heaven-defying immortal court. Fellow cultivators, cleave the heavens. The defiant roar of 100,000 cultivators transformed into a surging tidal wave of energy that pierced the sky, shattering the dark clouds that had blanketed the heavens and the earth, turning them into formless nothingness in an instant. Boom. Boom. Within the void, the true form of the ancient golden spirit-devouring demon vine, stretching tens of thousands of miles, erupted with a terrifying aura capable of incinerating countless minor worlds as it finally descended upon this mortal sky. The overwhelming pressure of the Mahayana realm perfection, which even surpassed that of an ordinary immortal, caused countless low-level cultivators to cough up blood on the spot. This was a full-force execution strike fueled by the will of the upper realm. It sought to utterly purge every soul that dared to resist in this mortal plane, erasing them completely to reset this world, returning it once more into their personal harvesting grounds. Lowly parasites, accept your inevitable fate. From the void, the arrogant and ethereal roars of the immortals echoed throughout the sky. Standing at the vanguard, I faced the cataclysmic thunder and flames that filled the heavens, confronting the colossal vines as they plummeted toward me, yet my expression remained profoundly calm. To you, or rather, the so-called gods of the upper realm, I raised the heaven-cleaving azure lotus sword in my hand, as the spiritual energy of the peak tribulation transcendence realm and the aura of the great Tao azure lotus immortal physique erupted with total devastating force in this very moment. This seat shall teach you all a single truth. Even mere livestock can swallow the heavens. I swung my sword with all my might. Even livestock can swallow the heavens. I swung my sword with all my might. A 10,000-mile-long streak of purple gold azure lotus sword chi, carrying the imperishable intent of the world-breaking laws that remain eternal throughout 10,000 tribulations, soared into the heavens, rending the dark sky asunder into a colossal rift. The sword chi struck violently at the root of the golden ancient demon vine. From the void, the wretched shrieks of the spirit-devouring ancient demon vine echoed like those of a vengeful wraith. Golden demonic ichor poured down from the sky like a torrential rain, yet the moment it touched the spiritual light barrier below, it instantly transformed into a flood of pure worldly spiritual chi. This is impossible. Just what kind of monster are you? How could the mortal realm ever give birth to such an immortal physique? Within the void, those high and mighty lords let out cries of panic and pathetic desperation, as the system detected the host, causing extreme terror among countless lords of the immortal realm. Their bewilderment, insults, and unconscious humiliation, reaching a 10-star god-tier intensity of humiliation, has broken all limits, triggering a hundredfold strengthening effect. The host's cultivation has completely surpassed the barriers of this world, successfully ascended to a chaos azure lotus true immortal. My divine soul is now indestructible, and my physical body is eternal. I felt the purple gold primordial spirit within my body completely dissolve in this moment. In its place arose an eternal divine soul radiating the primordial aura of chaos. I have become a true immortal who has truly transcended the three realms. Existing outside the five elements, my every casual strike now holds the supreme power to shatter a mortal minor world into dust. I calmly uttered two words as the heaven-breaking azure lotus sword in my hand swung down once more. A streak of azure divine light thoroughly pierced through the 10,000-mile-long form of the ancient demon vine. Rumble, that which had stood guard over this world for hundreds of thousands of years, the spirit-devouring ancient demon vine, the world's sealing lock that had tightly shackled all living beings, completely collapsed and disintegrated at this moment, turning into a sky-filling mist of golden dust that drifted into every corner of this great hall. The world barrier, buried in the dust of hundreds of thousands of years, officially reopens at this very moment. In an instant, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth has been restored to a level 100 times greater than that of the ancient era. At this exact moment, countless cultivators have directly broken through their cultivation bottlenecks. Their power has soared, and in the sky the veil of false golden mist has finally dissipated, revealing a true path of ascension leading to the endless starry cosmos, brimming with vitality and hope. We have won, we have won. Long live the Thenvan Patriarch, we are finally free. Across the vast land, the passionate cheers and cries of joy from countless cultivators and mortals alike echoed through the air. Su Qingyu and the Qilian fairy could no longer restrain their emotions. Both of them threw themselves into my embrace. Holding the two beauties in my arms, I gazed at the azure sky as it slowly regained its serenity, a sense of poignant peace filling my heart. Two chaotic azure lotus true immortals, is it? I have become an invincible existence in this world, and perhaps even in the upper realm itself. Who would dare to insult me now? Who else would dare to challenge me? My physique that draws strength from insults, it seems, must truly go into complete retirement. Yet looking at Su Qingyu and the Qilian fairy, so full of tenderness and happiness in my arms, and witnessing the flourishing prosperity of the heaven-defying immortal court being rebuilt at the foot of the mountain, I smiled softly and gently folded my fan. If I am to be invincible, then so be it. This mortal life amidst the earthly dust, this life of grand fulfillment seems quite pleasant indeed. Taking one in each hand, I walked leisurely toward the demon suppression tower. I am in a joyous mood today. Tonight, let us feast on the Icefire spiritual fruit hot pot sent from Ice Soul City.